Chapter 1260, No Cowards, but what if we're not together or in one piece? Guadav didn't want to voice out his concerns and sound more troubled than he looked, so he only nodded in response. You're right. Gustav and Edie continued discussing for some time as Edie threw in occasional jokes to lighten the mood. Gustav couldn't help but chuckle a couple of times before he finally decided to retire to his room and channel his bloodline for the rest of the night. The next day arrived in a jiffy, and the ISOP participants were once more gathered in the arena. Cheers, 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 spectators cheers for their planet representatives to boost their morale as they stepped into the arena. Spectators from disqualified planets were allowed to remain present till the end of ISOP. Some of these spectators were still sour from their planets losing, but others had already gotten over it and picked new favorites to support. I will stake my bets on the Draconids. Nah, for me, I'll pick Ozius. Captain Vilax is my current favorite. I'll place my bets today with logic instead of favoritism. If I see two participants paired, and am sure one is more powerful than the other, I'm placing my bets today on the more powerful one. In with that kid from Earth, Endrick. The arena was loud, as usual, before the computerized system began picking out participants for the next batch. SSS Fuham, the circular beam flew off into the distance with the beast within, returning a bit of tranquility to the environment. Lucky. Face displayed a relived expression once more as he moved to the side and took a seat. On the other side, Gustav hugged Angie's body to his as he fully regained clarity. Thank you, he whispered. I'm glad you're all right, Angie voiced, while rubbing his back affectionately. Gustav's face displayed a smile as he relaxed completely for a while, closing his eyes and soaking in the warmness of her body. After some time, he opened his eyes with a single thought in mind. What was that? He wondered for a couple of seconds as he tried to recall what could have brought about that. Fear, even though I told the system to restrict itself and go offline, it shouldn't be a reason for me to develop such deep fear that would cause a panic attack, he thought. After thinking for a few more minutes, Gustav finally figured it out. The encounter with these beasts here, and wearing himself out, his last thoughts before he entered the state of panic was powerlessness. While he hadn't noticed it, he subconsciously feared going back to being plain old Gustav with only the ability to change his hair color and a strong penchant for suicide. He thought he had forgotten the feeling of powerlessness. He was unaware that he had been cultivating the fear of going back to being the same weak and useless person he used to for years. An incident like this was the only thing needed to trigger the overwhelming fear of powerlessness that had been creeping from deep within. Internally, he was extremely grateful for Angie and EES' presence, since he had no idea what he would have done if they weren't here. Less than 10,000 points. My life points have maxed out, EE voiced from the other end, as he stared at his Eye of Bracelet. Gustav and Angie slowly separated from each other after hearing that. They each proceeded to check their Eye of Bracelets. Mine has maxed out too. Mine as well. Angie and Gustav noticed that the points displayed on their bracelets was neither decreasing, nor was it increasing. Gustav calculated that this meant they had been in the Golden Entrapment Yellow Zone for over 2 hours. Although their life points had maxed out, they were still in a yellow zone. This meant they weren't completely safe, even though they had found a place to hide out. This was precisely one of the things Handler 1 mentioned earlier. Yellow zones were not void of danger, but they were also not completely dangerous like red zones would be. Maybe more yellow zones like this existed, where participants could find a place to hide out within. However, Gustav still felt they weren't completely safe and still needed to find a way to get to a green zone. This, of course, was easier said than done, since the closest green zone was 5 hours away. They're still here, EE voiced as he peeked through the holes in between the Golden Gate like poles. He could still visibly spot the purplish fog across the air and hear faint wings flapping sounds. The skeletal flying beasts were obviously still around here. They sure are persistent, Angie muttered. Gustav's main worry was them finding this place and attacking with a combined force. Although the last beast who tried attacking the gate like poles was unable to break through, there was no telling if the same situation would repeat itself in an event where multiple of them attacked at once. Not to mention that the small space they were currently hiding in had stopped moving in the meantime. The entire golden entrapment was in a constant state of change, but there were times when certain areas would remain unmoved for minutes or even hours. "We need to find a way to sneak out," Gustav voiced. In another part of the Beast Haven, a participant with multiple limbs and bluish star-shaped patterns all across his body bolted across a dark vicinity with intense speed. Treach, Pucci, the sound of organs ripping and body parts splitting reverberated across the environment as this participant stabbed his multiple limbs into the bodies of menacingly large beasts. He arrived before one that was over 30 feet tall, throwing a fierce uppercut with 3 of his right arms. Boom! His entire body traveled upwards in speed, with his arms bursting through the head of the creature instantaneously, leaving a large enough hole for him to fly through. 4 seconds. 3 seconds, fountain of blood and brain matter splattered across the place as a timer counted down on this particular eye of bracelet. A large shadowy figure reaching over 100 feet in height suddenly appeared behind him as he raised one of his left hands. The large shadowy figure conjured a massive bluish glowing spear in the last 2 seconds, before passing it to the figure with multiple limbs. Omicron, the participant, held onto the 30 feet long glowing blue spear with 3 of its hands at once before flinging it forward with intense force. Thump! A shock wave spread from his location, sending a ripple of dust across the vicinity as the bluish spear shot out with immense speed. It phased through a lineup of beasts up ahead, causing them to disintegrate into blue light particles instantly. The spear made a C-turn after reaching a particular distance, stabbing into the rest of the beasts in the vicinity. 1 second, 0 second. In the next instant, the glowing spear vanished along with the dark, shadowy figure hovering over the participant initially. The participant raised his arms slightly as he felt power leave his body. 10 seconds was enough, he voiced with a tone laced with pride, while staring at the corpses that drenched the surface of this environment. He turned around and moved towards a small black crate up ahead. The instant arrived before it, he placed his left arm into it. A computerized sound rang out before he withdrew his hand. Attacks restocked, +1 extra attack. His multiple eyes had displayed hints of astonishment and excitement as he noticed the notification on his eye of bracelet. Things are about to get more interesting. Unlike these unworthy weaklings, I, the captain of the Draconites, shall not cower in the face of any adversity, even powerlessness. I shall bring the Beast Haven to its knees, Captain Strum stated with a short burst of laughter while turning around. He tapped on the map display on his eye of bracelet. Scarlet Canyon, the location that was displayed on the map as his current position, showed that he was in a red zone. What he had come here for was unknown. However, what was known was how he had slaughtered over 200 beasts here since his arrival. Is this to say that he still had his supernatural abilities? No, that wasn't the case. Captain Strum had made use of 2 of his attacks before his arrival here. His last attack just happened to be one that displayed unlocking participant abilities for 10 seconds. He was allowed to use his supernatural abilities for 10 seconds due to this, and that was enough to lay waste to the entire region. He only came here to restock in the first place, ignoring that it would be packed with all sort of dangerous beasts. It was like Captain Strum was without fear or restraint despite losing the teammates who were initially around him earlier. Now that he had achieved his objective, he began making his way to the closest yellow zone. Now he had 4 attacks instead of 3 after restocking. Time went by very quickly, 23:45. 10, less than a day was left till the end of the Beast Haven Survival Challenge currently. At this point, over half of the participants had been disqualified. From the initial numbers of nearly 2,000, Only a little over 600 were left. The challenge was filled with unexpected situations, and despite the participants receiving briefing before going in, it ended up being more crazy than anticipated. Some that had survived so far were lucky, since despite being capable, some participants had gotten disqualified due to unfortunate situations. Currently, many participants were unaware of one thing as they held on to whatever was left of their attacks as a last resort. TH's last attack in the Eye of Bracelet wasn't an attack. Instead, it was a 10 seconds temporary unlock of the restraints on their supernatural abilities. Those who had already made use of all their attacks were aware of these, but many others still held on to their last attack, not wishing to make use of it until they were in an inescapable situation. They were certainly in for a shock if they ever made use of it. Only Captain Strum was crazy enough to head to a red zone, so he was the only participant who would get the chance to unlock the restraints on his supernatural abilities twice. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1261, Captain Kriv vs. Gustav, Kriv VL, Planet Klaxosape versus Gustav Crimson, Planet Earth. Captain Kriv and Gustav had a brief stare-down within this vicinity of destruction as a gigantic spacecraft got blasted down from above. The spacecraft descended towards them, but before it could completely crash, both figures moved. Swaya, Gustav's figure, turned blurry as he charged at Captain Kriv, who also charged vigorously at him as well. Gustav arched his right arm backwards while clenching his fist strongly as he arrived before the massive and muscular pointy rock-like being. It was like an ant charging at a grasshopper, as both figures arrived before each other, while the spacecraft descending was only a couple of feet away from crashing onto them. Gustav swung his clenched fist at Captain Kriv, who also threw his fist downwards at Gustav's minuscule-looking figure. Boom! Both fists collided in the next instant, causing a powerful surge of energy to rip across the vicinity. Bang! The force generated from the collision blasted into the spacecraft descending from above, causing it to shoot in another direction, forcefully, while parts of it dislodged from one another. Bang! 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 Other scraped items and structures in the vicinity were hit, as well as the shock waves spread across the entire stage while the ground caved, and the barrier surrounding the battle stage flickered intensely. From the first clash alone, spectators had their jaws dropping from the physical strength these two displayed. Both figures had slid back upon collision, but immediately charged at each other once more without a moment of rest. Bang! 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 Boom! 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 Ripples repeatedly blasted across the vicinity as Gustav and Captain Kriv clashed an uncountable number of times. Despite Captain Kriv's size, his speed was not lacking as he traded furious blows with Gustav that had turned blurry to the audience. Reinforced the barrier surrounding their stage. Handler 1 instructed one of the handlers around him, but it already has 5 layers of reinforcement. The handler reminded, "Just do it. Make it 10. Just as Handler 1 said this, the first layer of the barrier blasted to pieces. Thry, the second layer, which was more powerful, instantly kicked in, protecting the surroundings and other parts of the arena from the impact of these two battles. On the stage, Gustav was constantly pushed back as they traded blows. There was no doubt that Captain Kriv was stronger physically. Each punch to Gustav felt like he was taking on the force of multiple fast-moving moons. "Are you insulting me, Earthling? I told you not to hold back." "Yeah," Captain Kriv voiced as he tightened his massive fist furiously and threw a punch forward that was 3 times more powerful than the previous ones. Fwyish, dash has been activated. Gustav's figure suddenly blurred as he appeared behind Captain Kriv the moment he swung his fist forward. "Like I said, as you wish," Gustav's voiced as he threw a fist forward from behind with intensity. Captain Kriv only realized he had missed at the last moment, but his defense kicked in subconsciously as his pointy rocky back made rattling sounds as they twisted and connected to each other. His back instantly turned smooth and protruded the moment Gustav's fist collided with it. Bang! Another shockwave spread across the place as the gigantic Captain Kriv got blasted forward with intensity, causing his body to ricochet across the place. Bang, bang, bang. His body slammed onto the ground and then ascended, crashing into a spacecraft above. He blasted through it and reappeared on the other end before making a flip and descending towards the ground while his body kept flying backwards. Flyish Gustav's figure tore across the air and reappeared before him with another fist shooting forward at his face. "I said use all you have," Captain Kriv yelled as he reached out both arms the moment Gustav arrived before him, while he was still in midair. Gustav noticed he had fallen into a trap, albeit too late, as his fist collided with Captain Kriv's face, causing another loud blast as his head tilted to the side, while pieces of rocks fell off. Bam! Captain Kriv's arms wrapped around him at the same moment Gustav's fist made contact. "You?" Captain Kriv's loud voice caused the surroundings to quake as he turned upside down while Gustav's body was in his grasp. Bang! He immediately slammed Gustav onto the ground upon descent. Boom! Another shockwave rang out again as destruction spread across the vicinity. Bang! 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 Multiple spacecraft descended from the air as the shock waves slammed into them heavily. KRRYCHHHHH. Cracks instantly appeared across the second layer of barrier, causing a look of worry to appear on the faces of the handlers. Gustav looked up and could see Captain Kriv launching another punch at his face after slamming him heavily onto the ground. He couldn't deny that he didn't expect Captain Kriv to tank his punch like that and take the damage only to deal him a greater damage. He had only realized what he was up to late. Captain Kriv suddenly paused his giant fist halfway as he leapt backwards. Meanwhile, Gustav slapped his hands on the ground with force in that same moment. Flyey, his body shot across the air backwards with immense speed as a destructive red beam slammed onto the area where his body laid initially. Boom! The already disgraded ground caved in as cracks spread across the area and debris blasted across the air. Gustav and Captain Kriv had narrowly evaded the red beams that shot down from above at random moments. Since the beams usually switch locations, it could appear anyway. Fortunately, they noticed it in time and swiftly escaped. "You want me to use more than just my physical strength, right?" "All right," Gustav voiced as his figure began morphing. Beast transformation bloodline has been activated. Gustav's skin turned brownish red as tusks grew out of his thighs and forearms while his entirely body bloated. His body began brimming with so much energy that Captain Kriv's face turned a little wary as he watched Gustav reach a height of 10 feet. The Klaxosape's captain was around 15 feet tall, so their current height difference did not look as ridiculous as it did before. Gustav's eyes gleamed with a red glow as his muscular outline was very visible through his tight white and blue battlesuit. Atomic blade has been activated. The moment the 8 feet long, milky-colored blade appeared in his grasp, he charged forward with intensity. Tuhush, Captain Kriv was taken by surprise as Gustav's figure blurred, and he reappeared right before him with a large, milky blade sweeping towards his chest. Captain Kriv quickly reacted by swinging his fist at Gustav's face. Slash! Bang! Gustav's figure swept across the air as Captain Kriv's fist collided with his face a moment after his atomic blade slashed Kriv's chest. Captain Kriv groaned in pain as a large rip appeared across his chest area while his figure shot across the air from the force of collision. KRRYCHH. Pieces of rock fell from his body as he swept across the ground for hundreds of feet after slamming onto it. This time Gustav had been the one to tank his attack while dealing more damage than before with atomic blade. Gustav ignored his bleeding face as he leapt forward while raising his atomic blade. The atomic blade lengthened rapidly, reaching over 50 feet in just a moment as Gustav swung the massive blade down in midair with intensity. Captain Kriv quickly swerved to the side despite the massive space that had been left in his chest due to Gustav's initial attack. Slash! Thrih! Gustav's atomic blade caused a quarter of the stage to split as it tore through it upon collision. The cracks spread further, with Captain Kriv barely evading and nearly falling into the large divide that was created from Gustav's attack. Hover has been activated. Gustav caused the blade to retract as he levitated, stopping himself from falling into the pit he created. Captain Kriv could see that Gustav had gotten a boost in power as he came charging at him without wasting a single second once more. Swish, slish. Gustav swung the atomic blade at Captain Kriv multiple times with immense speed. His arms turned into blurs as Captain Kriv did his best to evade the blade that erased atoms upon collision. Swee-eye, swoof, however. No matter how much Captain Kriv tried, Gustav was undoubtedly faster and would leave even more cuts across his body, sending him flying repeatedly upon collision. At the Klaxosape spectators' area, the party of massive rocky creatures bore tense looks as they watched the battle unfold. You Kriv cannot defeat that Earthling without using it. The Earthling is powerful, no doubt, but once Kriv uses it, he will defeat the Earthling. Why hasn't he used it? They watched as Captain Kriv continuously did his best to evade Gustav's barrages of attacks while tanking some and losing body parts each time. Gustav dashed forward once more as Captain Kriv tried taking swift backward steps. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1262. Gustav dashed forward once more as Captain Kriv tries taking steps backwards. He slashed with even more intensity than before, since he was aware at this point that Captain Kriv's rocky body was extremely difficult to inflict high damage on despite making use of atomic disintegration. Captain Kriv raised both his arms as he noticed he couldn't completely evade the blade. The atomic blade cleaved through both Captain Kriv forearms, slicing them off cleanly. Gasp! The entire arena descended into noise as ash-colored mist erupted from Captain Kriv's arms after they had been sliced off, covering the entire vicinity. Bam! Bam! The sound of the massive hands falling to the ground reverberated across the vicinity. However, the visibility of the stage became immensely hindered in the next moment. Rho Alpha Pi Dialphes Nu Omicron B Epsilon L. C Omicron M dash. I think Captain Crimson has won. I can't see anything right now. Oh mine, the battle hasn't ended. As voices of disbelief spread across the vicinity, a crumbling sound rang out from the battle stage area. A loud roar that caused the entire arena to tremble despite the barrier covering the stage rang out powerfully. The spectators, who were initially jabbering away, stared at the misty battle stage with expressions of intrigue. The more powerful spectators could already get a hang of what was ongoing on the battle stage and had expressions of surprise. Boom! A loud crash reverberated across the vicinity again, causing vast tremors all across the arena. He got Earth's captain. What in the world? The mist in the vicinity cleared up, and everyone stared at the battle stage with looks of disbelief. Moments earlier, Gustav, who was within the misty-covered environment, felt a great deal of pressure expanding from up ahead immediately after his last successful attack. Despite the lack of clarity in the environment, he was well aware of when Captain Kriv leapt thousands of feet backwards after getting his arms sliced off. Captain Kriv made use of the mist which had been emitted from his sliced arms to switch locations. This would have worked better on anyone else, but Gustav's perception and the power of God eyes made it, so that hindering his visuals was almost impossible. Gustav had charged forward even after Captain Kriv tried to keep a huge amount of distance in between them, but the instant after he moved, the crumbling sounds began ringing out. Spectators thought the ground had crumbled again from the impacts of their fight, but Gustav was right on the stage, so he knew it was far from the ground crumbling. Captain Kriv's body happened to be what was making this sound. The pointy rocks on his body all twisted and joined to each other like bolts and construction parts merging to each other. His rocky body changed from ash to dark red, as a dangerous glimmer appeared in his sockets while his body enlarged rapidly. The core transformation Gustav immediately recognized what was happening before him and paused his body in midair. Each core transformation from a Klaxosape comes with perks. Be careful. The system warned, but Gustav was already aware of this. However, it was too late to be wary, as Gustav's senses were assaulted with the feeling of danger spreading forth from Captain Kriv's figure that had increased to 50 feet in size. Gustav didn't want to charge forward recklessly without properly figuring out the pros attached to Captain Kriv's transformation, which was why he paused movement. However, Captain Kriv had this point set his sights on him and roared while charging forward. Captain Kriv's roar caused the entire arena to tremble tremendously as sound waves traveled across the air. Gustav squinted with a slightly disturbed look as he tried to counter the incoming fist with one of his, since he found himself unable to dodge. Captain Kriv's fist was approaching with so much power it would make evading futile. Through the grounds were splitting apart, and ripples were spreading across the environment as the fist traveled forward despite the fact that it hadn't made contact with its target. I have to throw in the strongest punch I can currently conjure up. Gustav decided that coming up an equivalent amount of force would at least cause both attacks to cancel out. However, Gustav would soon realize that this was a grave error as he hurled his fist forward, while his arm morphed. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Kmai's right arm turned more muscular as the tusks protruding out of them increased in length. His skin changed color from brownish red to silver as scales covered them. A creamy glow coated his entire arm as his fist tore through the air, radiating with explosive strength as well. The strength that this fist carried was not Gustav's highest, but it was higher than what he used with Captain Strum, and happened to be the most powerful he could come up with under such short notice. It hadn't even been a second. Yet, both fists were already about 10 feet away from colliding. The wave of destructiveness ripping across the vicinity before the collision had created a crater that was hundreds of feet deep and still enlarging. Both their bodies trembled as they were exposed to the destructive power of each other's fists. It was at this moment that Gustav realized something. Shit, he cursed internally, but it was too late. Bjorn! The instant the collision occurred, a powerful and unfathomable blast rang out. The whistish ripples of destruction that spread forth wreaked havoc across the entire stage, causing the spacecraft in midair and the multiple scraped ones scattered around to get blasted across the air. They were all swept to the edges of the battle stage as the barrier surrounding them took a great hit. Bang, 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 bang. The second layer of barrier was instantly shattered, but that wasn't the end. The moment the third layer appeared in place, it was shattered as well. Fourth shattered. Fifth shattered. The barrier finally managed to hold at the sixth layer, since every new layer was more powerful than the other. However, this didn't stop a great tremor from spreading to the entire arena. Everyone stared at the battle stage with awe-stricken faces as their seats quaked intensely. Cracks appeared on multiple areas, but they quickly mended back. Fortunately, no one was harmed since the sixth layer of barrier held. If this battle had happened anywhere else, it would have caused unprecedented damage. The stage made the destructiveness seem minuscule due to how it was designed to trap in and absorb such powerful outbursts. Captain Kriv and Gustav would have destroyed a small planet by now had this not been the case. As the debris scattered across the stage slowly cleared, everyone's eyes widened. Dash, he got Earth's captain. Dash, what in the world are Klaxosapes made of? Dash, no way. On the other end of the barrier, a bloody human figure could be seen mashed against it. The figure, which was undoubtedly Gustav, slowly slid down, as multiple spacecraft could be seen with scattered around him. Regeneration has been activated. Blood oozed out of Gustav's mangled face as his arms and legs, which were twisted in a different direction, slowly began to move back into place. That was worse than I expected. Gustav's vision, which was currently hindered by his blood-soaked face, began picking up on the situation of the environment. Captain Kriv, who was thousands of feet away from his position, only took a paltry sum of damage as compared to Gustav. Gustav realized at the last moment that Captain Kriv's fist was increasing in explosiveness and power the further it traveled. To make things worse, as Gustav threw his fist forward earlier, it was weakening in strength. What he figured out in those few milliseconds happened to be that the energy gathered around Captain Kriv's fist was not just accumulating, but also stealing power from his. By the time both fists collided, his fist had weakened, meanwhile that of Captain Kriv's had increased exponentially. Before Gustav right now was a massive crater that had spread across the entire stage and was thousands of feet deep. Only the decks of the stage had high ground, which was where Gustav's battered body currently laid. If one was to move forward, they'd fall into the pit up ahead that was thousands of feet deep. Unfortunately for Gustav, this didn't stop Captain Kriv, who was initially on the other end. Thum! He leapt forward in the next instant towards Gustav. Gustav groaned in pain as coughed out blood. Knowing that his regeneration wasn't complete yet, he quickly activated an ability while trying to move his dislocated arms. Energy discharge has been activated. A reddish wave of energy suddenly blasted forth from his figure as Captain Kriv closed in with another powerful punch. Boom! Bang! Captain Kriv blasted a massive hole through the energy discharge Gustav had activated and surprisingly landed before him in the next instant. This was really the first time Gustav was witnessing anyone blast through his energy discharge with just physical strength alone. Chapter 1263. This was really the first time Gustav was witnessing anyone blast through his energy discharge with just physical strength alone. He had to admit that Captain Kriv was incredibly overpowered after activating his core transformation. Captain Kriv immediately threw a fist at Gustav's body, so as to end this battle before Gustav could recuperate completely. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Gustav instantly turned into a streak of lightning and reappeared on the other end of the barrier. Bang! Captain Kriv's fist slammed into the barrier on the other end, causing it to tremble and flicker as a small tremor was generated once more. Captain Kriv realized that Gustav had appeared on the other end and reached out to grab a scrapped spacecraft by the side. FYI, he immediately hurled the 700 feet large spacecraft across the battle stage like it weighed nothing. Gustav had barely managed a single second of breathing space when he spotted the massive spacecraft shooting at him with intense speed. His body turned slightly greenish as icicle-like spikes shot out of the ground, forming a barrier around his battered body. The Iro silk formed a triangular-shaped barrier which stabbed into the spacecraft in midair, causing it to get hooked as its descent immediately came to a stop. Gustav watched his body slowly regenerate as Captain Kriv leapt across the air again. Bam! His 50-feet frame landed before the covering of Iro silk, which happened to still be extending all around Gustav, making it difficult to see through. Bang! Captain Kriv threw a fist at the Iro silk covering, blasting through layers of it as chunks of the icicle-like covering scattered across the place. Gustav's body remained green and slightly bloated as he kept generating Iro silk non-stop to make up for the parts that were blasted through. Bang! 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 It was like the Iro silk had turned to pieces of wood as Captain Kriv's fist kept penetrating them quite easily. The Iro silk would usually be able to hold back barrages of attacks without getting damaged, but in the face of Captain Kriv's fist, it was like paper. Captain Kriv's fist kept shattering the Iro silk faster than Gustav could generate them, but fortunately, Gustav had nearly regenerated completely by the time he shattered enough to arrive before him. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Gustav's body turned into a streak of lightning once more, reappearing on the west side of the barrier. Bang! Captain Kriv's fist disgraded the vicinity again after missing Gustav. HNNGHH. He turned and noticed Gustav thousands of feet away. I need to figure out if that happens only with physical attack or with any energy-based attack. Gustav thought back to how Captain Kriv had stolen energy from his fist in the last clash. Gustav had used only physical strength, when throwing out that fist earlier, but it had been from part ultimate combination which he made to affect his right arm alone. He wanted to confirm if Captain Kriv was capable of absorbing other energy-based attacks or just physical attacks alone. Gustav knew that if it was the former, then the situation was very bad, but he couldn't engage Captain Kriv without proper confirmation first. Speed. Gustav still knew he had the advantage in this aspect, despite Captain Kriv's core transformation, which also boosted Kriv's speed. God Eyes has been activated. Gustav's eyes widened slightly in shock the moment he stared at Captain Kriv energy levels. Captain Kriv was no doubt the highest in physical prowess amongst all other captains, and God Eyes confirmed this theory to Gustav. However, now wasn't the time to be smitten by his energy levels. It was time to make the other confirmation. Thumb! Captain Kriv leapt forward, while swinging another fist at Gustav's figure. Just like every other powerful punch before, the air was already sending ripples across the battle stage, while the fist was still tens of feet away from making contact. Atomic disintegration has been activated. Gustav's palms emitted a burst of milky glow as he thrust one of them forward intensely. Palm thrust has been activated. A powerful wave of energy spread from his being as his palm tore through the air as well, headed straight for the incoming fist. "You've finally stopped running," Captain Kriv grinned as he increased the intensity of his fist while descending from the air vibrantly. Gustav felt the strike of his palm weakening as Captain Kriv closed his and scrunched his face a little just when collision was about to occur. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Thraz has Gustav's figure turned into a streak of lightning and reappeared on the east of the battle stage instantly. Boom! A loud crash rang out once more as the entire stage trembled immensely while debris scattered in every direction. Again, Captain Kriv was starting to get frustrated as he gritted his teeth and turned to find the location Gustav had reappeared this time. Only the energy from physical thrust was absorbed, the energy from atomic disintegration was unaffected. As Gustav came to this realization, he deactivated God Eyes. He knew what he needed to do now, but the only problem was how to go about it. Even being in a 200 feet radius with Captain Kriv was disastrous, so engaging him using only energy-based attacks would be immensely difficult. Time to go full throttle, Gustav thought as Captain Kriv charged at him, once more while roaring. Ultimate combination has been activated. Gustav's figure transformed rapidly as silver scales grew out of his skin, and he increased in height. Dark horns grew out of his forehead, reaching a length of 3 feet, as they twisted upwards. His entire figure was cascaded in an unfathomable silver glow as his muscle looked like it was about to rip through his blood-soaked outfit. A long black tail could be seen from his rear, and a crimson glow appeared in his eyes. It looked like the space around Gustav was twisting as he stared at the approaching opponent with a deep gaze. Lowering his head a little, a violet-colored energy began circulating in between his horns. Streams of dangerous aura spread forth from Gustav's position, causing Captain Kriv to turn a little wary. But at this moment, he was less than 50 feet away from Gustav, so it was impossible to stop his attack. However, even with the danger he felt, he knew his fist was increasing in power as it further approached Gustav, so he wasn't too wary. At most, they'd both take damage from this attack, just when Gustav's attack was about to blast forward. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Thraz has his entire figure suddenly vanished. Captain Kriv's eyes widened as his fist collided with the barrier ahead, once more causing a loud crash to ring out. The sense of danger that vanished along with Gustav's presence suddenly reappeared above him in the next moment. Captain Kriv didn't even get the chance to react, as a bright violet glow encapsulated the entire vicinity from above. Tins and Hish, a powerful and destructive violet beam shot downwards with intensity, instantly slamming into him from above. Boom! The surroundings immediately caved as Captain Kriv's entire figure crashed onto the ground, as the powerful beam caused his bow to burrow into it mercilessly from its intensity. This beam kept shooting downwards for a couple of seconds before it finally dimmed. By the time it thinned out, Captain Kriv's figure had been buried hundreds of feet into the ground while steam erupted. Gustav's figure was high above, hovering close to the barrier since that was the current limit of lightning blitz. The best way to go about this battle is to keep taking him by surprise. No direct contact, Gustav said internally as he activated God Eyes once more. Captain Kriv's back had been charred, and rocks fell of his body as he tried to get up after the attack. Gustav descended at this point. Eyes bam! The moment he landed in the crater, which was thousands of feet deep, he activated another ability. Gravitational manipulation has been activated. Captain Kriv, who was about to charge forward at Gustav once again, suddenly felt an insurmountable force permeate the environment. Before he could realize what was happening, his body ascended uncontrollably into the air along with pieces of rocks and dirt around him. He hadn't managed to stabilize himself when Gustav opened his mouth. Kair! Massive rings of sonic waves shot forth from Gustav's mouth, blasting into Captain Kriv's figure vigorously. Captain Kriv groaned as his earring and entire body trembled slightly while his figure shot further across the air. Bang! He slammed into the other end of the barrier while the sonic waves thinned out in the next moment. That didn't do much damage, Gustav noticed as he stared at Captain Kriv with God Eyes. You have to use something more powerful. You're only aggravating him at this point. His physical energy is increasing by the second. The longer this battle prolongs, the stronger he will get. Gustav also came to this realization using God Eyes. Chapter 1264, his physical energy is increasing by the second. The more this battle prolongs, the stronger he will get. Gustav also came to this realization using God Eyes. Sing, a 5-feet-long katana, appeared in Gustav's grasp in the next instant, which instantly automatically unsheathed. Electric arcs could be seen swimming across the red blade, as it emitted a certain pressure the moment Gustav touched the hilt. This was the Jiko Hakai katana, and Gustav had decided to make use of it since he wanted to maintain a no direct contact battle. Gustav gathered energy as he raised the Jiko Hakai katana in a vertical format. The katana's red blade glowed brightly as the electric arcs swimming around it increased in length and intensity. Captain Kriv, who was trying to get up from up ahead, sensed another feeling of danger as he stared forward. The entire stage had been lit up in bright red as Gustav placed his second hand on the hilt of the katana before swinging it downwards with great might. Captain Kriv ignored the pain he was feeling and quickly jumped to his feet. He sped sideways with the intention of dodging the immensely long arc of reddish energy sweeping forward at the moment. When Captain Kriv realized he couldn't dodge, he separated his arms like he was going in for a hug while tightening his rocky muscles. Sweeping both hands forward, Captain Kriv clapped his hands together with great force. Boom! It sounded like a nuclear weapon had gone off as a burst of wave from the impact shot forward with intensity. Boom! The moment Gustav's attack and Captain Kriv's clap effect collided, a greater blast rang out as the two powers contended against each other, sending powerful waves across the place. Roalfapai Dialfes Nu Omicron V Epsilonel, Mai's body flailed in the air for a bit as he held the hilt of the katana while pushing a palm forward. All of a sudden, the gravitational force around him underwent a reversal, causing the waves blasting in his direction to shift upwards. He stabilized his figure as his hair blew in the wind while the red arc battling for supremacy up ahead finally slashed through Captain Kriv's attack. Bang! Fortunately for Captain Kriv, the massive red arc had reduced in power, so when it hit, the damage was not as great as it would have been. However, despite that, Captain Kriv had taken more damage than he had inflicted on Gustav in the last few minutes. His reddish rocky covering after activating core transformation was usually powerful enough to tank attacks of high caliber without taking any or much damage, but in Gustav's case these damages were beyond the threshold. Captain Kriv's face emitted an expression of horror as Gustav swung the katana forward, once more before he even had the chance to recuperate. Swaiwaya, swaiwaya, swihai, swaiweh. Captain Kriv quickly thrust his fist forward multiple times in reaction to the incoming slashes. His fists were like ballistic weaponry, sending powerful surges forward as he thrust out multiple times. Boom, 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 boom. The collisions created were like nothing that had been seen before, as Captain Kriv was finally managing to stand his ground by thrusting his fists more than 100 times forward in a single second. I need a chance. This made the explosiveness his combined attacks carried to be on par with the slashes from the Jiko Hakai katana. KRYYCHHHH. Cracks began to appear on the 6th layer of the barrier surrounding them. Captain Kriv was still taking occasional damage from their continuous firing of attacks, but none of them stopped. Swaiwaya, swaiwaya, swihai, swaiweh. Boom, 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 boom. From the spectator's point of view, they could barely see anything besides blurry movement of limbs and flurries of powerful attack, each capable of leveling the face of a planet. Gustav kept repeatedly slashing forward with the Jiko Hakai katana, while Captain Kriv kept thrusting his fist forward to counter. Bang! The 6th layer soon got blasted to smithereens, but fortunately, the 7th layer quickly took its place. Despite the overpowered state of Captain Kriv, he was still getting pushed back and taking occasional damages as the back and forth attacks continuously played out. I only need an opportunity, an opening. Captain Kriv's face displayed a pressured look as he kept thrusting his fist forward repeatedly. Gustav had a grasp on the Jiko Hakai katana now, and due to his tremendous strength while ultimate combination was activated, he was barely taking any damage from using the powerful katana. Fine! A reddish bolt suddenly descended from the air in Gustav's position. Swiwai, he swiftly swerved towards the left as the reddish bolt slammed onto the ground in the position where he was initially situated. The split moment Gustav stopped his attack to evade the beam was the opportunity Captain Kriv has been waiting for, as his rocky thighs exploded with power and he charged forward. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Confirm the explosive speed at which he charged forward left Gustav dumbfounded, as it hadn't even been a second when he spotted a powerful fist of domination sweeping at his figure. Captain Kriv's acceleration was faster than Angie's base speed, so it would leave anyone dumbfounded, Gustav included. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Gustav activated Lightning Blitz for the 5th time, causing it to go into a 10 minutes cooldown. Thraz has, his figure reappeared a distance away within the crater. However, at this same moment, Captain Kriv turned around, gathering the waves generated from his fist and causing it to make a 360 degrees turn as well. The instant Gustav reappeared thousands of feet away, Captain Kriv roared as he shot his fist in Gustav's new direction. The ground split open once more as the waves traveled forward, arriving before Gustav in nearly an instant. Gustav swung the katana downwards, once more to divide the incoming wave of destruction in 2 halves. He had reacted swiftly enough, but didn't gather enough energy to do more than just cleave the waves of destruction in 2. Thwoosh! Captain Kriv had accelerated forward, once more with as much energy as he could gather at the moment, causing steam to erupt from his rocky body as he arrived before Gustav with his massive outstretched fist once more. At this point, Captain Kriv was sure his attack would connect, since Gustav was not only taken by surprise on the fact that he managed to use that explosive speed twice, but also because he had attacked before Gustav could raise his katana for the 2nd time. Finally, Captain Kriv believed he had trapped Gustav, and now he would finally come out victorious from this arduous battle. To his utmost surprise, a faint smirk appeared on Gustav's bloody face as he suddenly vanished. Frizz, Captain Kriv's fist phased into a spherical-shaped blue orb that appeared in place of Gustav, and he suddenly felt the energy from his fist get sapped. What in the name of the gods? He uttered with a shocked expression as the bluish orb began glowing after absorbing energy from his fist. In the next moment, boom, The orb exploded, sweeping Captain Kriv off his feet with the same energy that had been consumed from his fist. Rocks crumbled from his chest and face area, but before he could stabilize himself in midair, he felt a pair of hands on his back. These hands held his body up, stopping him from continuously spiraling across the air, and in the next instant, swoosh, his figure blurred, as they arrived in a different location before he could blink. Thump! A massive reddish beam descended from above, mercilessly colliding onto his body as he was held up like a powerless child. Gaiah! Captain Kriv groaned as the beam obliterated a huge chunk of his rocky body. However, this wasn't the end, as the figure holding onto him flew in another direction. Swoosh, they once more appeared underneath a descending red bolt, and the same scenario as earlier played out again. Swoosh, thump, gyre her. Swoosh, thump, gyre her. After it occurred 2 more times, Captain Kriv's body had been reduced to a former shell of itself as chunks of his rocky body parts seemed to have blasted in multiple directions. His limbs were gone, and he was barely conscious at this point with a completely charred body. Gustav, who was holding him up in midair, could tell that Captain Kriv's energy had stopped increasing at this point. He finally let go of him, causing Captain Kriv's body to fall from mid-air like an enlarged sack of potatoes. Bang! Gustav floated in midair with his tail waving and his silver skin glowing in elegance as he stared at the completely desolated battle stage before him. The spectators were all stunned from the battle they had witnessed that they had forgotten to cheer. Their jaws hung loosely for a bit, while Gustav stared in the direction of the Draconet's participants. "You're next," he voiced calmly, yet his voice reverberated loudly across the entire arena. "Yaha! Whoa!" Cheers, loud cheers, rang out across the arena at this moment, as almost every spectator started chanting Gustav's name. "Crimson! Crimson! 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 Crimson!" Chapter 1265 Acquisition, Crimson. Crimson! 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 They had been completely astonished by this battle. It was way more spectacular and destructive than any other battle they had seen so far. Phew! What would have happened if Handler 1 didn't ask for the reinforcement of the barrier? One of the handlers stared at the destruction with a slight look of relief. 6 layers of barriers had been destroyed. Usually every stage had only 5, but Handler 1 had asked for this one to be reinforced with 5 extra layers after the battle began. Had this not been the case, one couldn't tell how the entire arena would have been affected. Gustav Crimson, Planet Earth, wins 1,400 points attained, - these two have to be the strongest captains for sure, - Captain Kriv is the strongest physically even though he lost, - how did Captain Crimson manage to win against that? Captain Crimson is a beast for sure. The spectators discussed about the battle as Gustav moved out of the stage while transforming back into his usual looks. The spectators wondered if any captain would have been able to survive such with Captain Kriv overpowered state. They couldn't imagine anyone winning even though they knew a couple of captains were assumed to be ranked on the same level of strength. At the last few minutes of the battle, Gustav had substituted himself with one of his energy siphoning spheres. Since he could conjure an empty energy sphere and make it invisible on command, he placed one quite a distance away and substituted with it when Captain Kriv was about to drive his fist into him. This substitution technically changed the whole scenario since the sphere absorbed the force from Captain Kriv's punch and then detonated at Gustav's command. Strum would have won. Gustav knew this for sure in his mind as he moved towards Earth's participant's position. Captain Strum ability was one that would have practically rendered Captain Kriv useless despite his strength. It would definitely be a bad matchup for Captain Kriv if they were ever to challenge each other. He knew Captain Kriv was physically the most powerful, but he also knew he subconsciously underestimated him due to everything he had in his arsenal. Gustav had decided he wouldn't use cosmic superiority under any circumstance before the entire world, but at the same time, because he knew he possessed such a power, he had an infallible mindset that had been brewing up within subconsciously. He knew he had to get rid of this mindset, since it nearly caused him to lose today despite all he had in his arsenal. He analyzed how the entire battle played out in his mind again, and realized he made so many errors. He pointed out areas where he could have applied his abilities better to achieve a much satisfactory result. Gustav took mental note, so he wouldn't make the same mistake again in future battles, especially one he wanted badly. The crowd was still busy cheering for Gustav, but he wasn't even paying attention to any of that. Captain Kriv had lost, but at the very least, he proved that the Klaxosapes were still the strongest in physical prowess. He was in a pinch, yet he didn't make use of it. At Indula's prime spectators area, Captain Irond watched the highlight of Gustav's battle with an intrigued expression. Captain Irond, what if he isn't the outworldly? A team member questioned from the side. Remember, our Lord claims the outworldly is amongst us here. He cannot be a part of a group that would have gotten disqualified, and so far our investigations point to 5 people who might be the outworldly. Amongst the 5, only he possesses a 90% probability of being the outworldly, and the moment he activates it, the rest of the 10% will be complete, Captain Irond voiced with a serious tone as his eyes gleamed with deep darkness. But what about Captain Strum? Endrik Alsov of Earth? These two seem to be above the power threshold of young participants, just like Captain Crimson is, another team member voiced. While these two are hiding power beyond the threshold, they still do not possess as many abilities as Captain Crimson does. Remember what the Lord said, Captain Irond voiced in response. Oh, the outworldly will possess a variety of abilities apart from the major ones that can control and rewrite fates, the team member voiced in recollection. But we cannot go ahead with the assignment till we are 100% sure that it is him, another team member stated. H&M. Sooner or later he will use the power. I assume he is trying to hide. He needs to be in a pinch first, Captain Irond said with a suspicious tone. How can we get him in a pinch? He has too many abilities that can assist him in getting out of almost every situation. One of them questioned with a tone of bafflement. Almost every situation, not every situation. I will have to come up with a situation where he will have no choice but to reveal it, Captain Irond said with a decisive tone. While the Indula's Prime participants were discussing in their little corner, the battles from this batch were already coming to an end. Gustav's teammates had all welcomed him back minutes earlier and showed their admiration. They never doubted Hedwyn even when things looked intense. While they were still in a joyous mood after the win, Gustav didn't stop analyzing his battle with Captain Kriv and began coming up with methods to counter the power of an opponent he had intentions of challenging in the future. In Draconet's spectators area, the Drakons had set their sights on Gustav as well. Can Strum defeat that Earthling? Captain Crimson? One of the Drakons at the front row voiced with a tone of worry. Should that even be a question? Just because he is spectacular amongst many others doesn't mean he can defeat Strum, Bronze medially responded with a slight scoff. Strum is the ultimate apex of his peers. I believe in his strength as well, another well-respected Drakon with 5 arms stated from the side. The Earth Captain has a pickle with him, so their battle is inevitable, another one of the Drakons voiced. As batches continuously played out, the spectators would occasionally bring up Gustav's battle with Captain Kriv. It still remained the most intense battle since the start of the challenge. Other captains had come out to battle since then, but none of them matched up with the tenacity of how that battle had played out. The Klaxosapes were still acknowledged as the physically strongest beings in the universe, but Gustav was considered a beast, too many abilities in his arsenal. Angie Villandrabadia, Planet Earth, versus Fiddlekeyvora, Planet Wildrek. Gustav watched as more of Earth participants got their turns to be challengers. The battles were interesting, no doubt, and Gustav made sure to still keep taking note. At the moment, Angie was battling with an opponent whose species were known as the fastest in the universe. Just as Captain Kriv was trying to prove that the Klaxosapes were physically the most powerful, Angie was trying to test her speed with this species. SHS wanted to know if she was truly qualified to accept the title of the fastest which her friends and teammates had bestowed upon her. Swoosh, swoosh. Currently, all that could be seen on the screens were silver and yellow streaks, which had drawn lines all across the battle stage. These two were moving so fast that even when the screens above tried to slow the footage of their battle down, it still appeared a bit blurry. Dash, what is this? I can't even enjoy the battle. Dash, aw man, this sucks. Dash, could they slow it down a bit more? While some of the spectators complained, people like Gustav were unbothered. Although the two were considerably faster than he was, his perception and sight allowed him to view their battle without stress. It was one thing to move as fast, and it was a different thing to be able to see as fast. Although seeing as fast doesn't mean a person would be quick enough to prevent an attack from someone moving faster. Bam, bam, bam. Occasionally clashes occurred between Angie and the yellow being whose lower half happened to be structured like a hornet. Two stick-like legs were attached to her lower half, which the Wildrecklin used in moving very quickly, making the world look still around her. Angie hadn't managed to land a strike that connected since the start of the battle, but she was still making use of her base speed, which ranged from 400 to 700,000 feet per second. They sped across the battle stage, racing along the barrier and even upwards. Bam, 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 bam. Angie threw a number of palms sideways as they made their way across the top of the barrier, running upside down like it was nothing. Her opponent met Angie thrusts with some of hers, causing them to collide more than 100,000 times in just a single second. Follow current novels on Top Novelful.com. Chapter 1266 Indulus Prime is up to something 1266 Indulus Prime is up to something her opponent met Angie thrusts with some of hers, causing them to collide more than 100,000 times in just a single second. Before spectators could finish uttering a single word from their mouths, these two had already circled the battle stage 80,000 times. Currently, they were averaging at a speed of around 450,000 feet per second. She shouldn't make use of that power again, or at least for now, Gustav said internally as he watched them occasionally move faster. She has other things at her arsenal. I think she is just probing her opponent limits for now, before trying anything, the system voiced in Gustav's mind. She doesn't want to be taken by surprise if she takes it up a notch. Angie is getting pretty smart these days. Gustav nodded in satisfaction. As the battle continued, their speed kept climbing. 500,000 feet per second, 550,000 feet per second, 600,000 feet per second, 650,000 feet per second, 700,000 feet per second. Gustav soon noticed that Angie's speed has stopped increasing while her opponent grew more and more faster. Unless she uses that horn form, she won't be able to go any faster. Gustav was well aware of this. Angie's attacks were now slower than that of her opponent, and soon she began taking damage since she was unable to evade all of the strikes from the Wildrecklin. While their battle was ongoing, another of Earth's participant was battling in another stage with an opponent that had challenged him. Yonda was currently battling against a Fixic participant in a forestry type of area. Fixics were like half biological and mechanical creatures who were structured like part animals. The one Yonda faced at the moment had a lower half that looked like a massive arachnid. 16 metallic-looking legs that were shaped like blades continuously swung at Yonda, barely leaving him spaces to evade, since these legs could extend. The air was being torn apart as Yonda's short figure sidestepped and leapt across the vicinity repeatedly before pointing his index finger forward. Cosmic finger, a surge of crimson stream shot forth from his finger. Yonda's opponent raised two of his blade-like legs to protect itself, crossing them like in times. Bang! The crimson surge slammed into the Fixic participant's blade, and an insurmountable force ripped through his legs before crashing into his body. The Fixic participant got swept across the air as its large body flipped repeatedly, while Yonda raised his middle finger next. This time the stream of crimson energy shot out from the ground, while the Fixic participant body was spiraling in that direction. Boom! It crashed into him from below, causing the opponent's entire body to rise further into the air as he slammed into the barrier. Dash, hey, that Yonda guy from Earth isn't bad. Dash, isn't Planet Fixic like 400 places beneath Earth? Dash, looks like he got an easier opponent to battle. Dash, that Angie girl should have it tougher, but I can't see a thing. Dash, all I see are lines. Dash, well, at least Planet Ruz off in her battle seems interesting. Dash, she's fighting against a member of Indulus Prime as well. The spectators discussed and debated the current batch, which they found pretty interesting. Besides the captains participating in this batch, there were also other participants they found interesting. Offioner of Planet Ruz hadn't lost a single battle since the start of the battle challenge. They had climbed their way from the 500s to the top 300s during this challenge. Although her current battle with the participant from Indulus Prime seemed to be her toughest, so far it still looked like she had the upper hand. From the looks of things, she only got more powerful as the battle continued. The red stripes all over her body like tattooed arrow markings only glowed brighter. The Rusians get more powerful with every successful strike. Gustav took note of this battle as well. But their strength decreased by a level if they don't manage to evade an attack. The system chimed in. Actually, it could reduce more than a level based on the amount of damage the attack causes. Gustav had God Eyes activated, so he could analyze properly. At this moment, on Angie's stage, a crazy phenomenon occurred. Wah! Everyone had their jaws dropping as Fildel, who was Angie's current opponent, happened to be moving in very slow motion. They stared at the yellow figure with hornet-shaped lower body and stick legs, moving in literally frames. She looked like a lagging game character as her right leg, which was currently above the ground, took seconds to descend. Good thing she didn't activate that other ability. I think her body can handle this one, Gustav said internally as he stared at Angie, whose left horn was emitting a silver glow. Swayai bam! Angie sped forward and drove an uppercut into Fiddle's jaw. Fildel fish-like mouth was slowly opening as her reaction to the damage Angie had just inflicted on her happened to be slow. Her body was slowly sweeping off the ground as well. However, Angie wasn't done. Bam, 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 bam. Angie drove fists into her opponent's body repeatedly. Fiddle hadn't even gotten the chance to react to the first attack due to her current speed, yet 10 more had disoriented her entire being. Gustav noticed Angie was moving only a little faster than a regular person as she dealt these strikes and came to a realization. Her speed is reduced when she activates this ability. He noted, but if she activates that form where her horn increases, she could break that limiter. The system voiced, that might be true, but that MJGHD also sap all of her energy. I want to see how long she can last in this state, Gustav responded. Angie soon deactivated this ability, but at the time she did so, she had inflicted lots of damage on her opponent. It didn't take too long before she won the battle. Her abilities had left the spectators wowed. It felt like cheating to them, but she won regardless. Yonda, on the other side, had devastated his opponent and even finished his battle before Angie did. Offioner, who Gustav was also taking note of, won her battle, which left Gustav a little startled. Offioner hadn't lost any battle, which was why she was placed on a pedestal in the minds of a lot of spectators. They weren't surprised that she won, but Gustav knew for sure that she wasn't supposed to. Not only were Indulus Prime currently ranked 3rd overall, none of their participants also happened to be weak. Every single one of them besides their captain were on the same level of strength, and only Gustav seemed to have realized this. If Offioner could defeat any one of them, It meant that she could defeat all of them besides the captain, which was impossible since Gustav had watched the others win opponents that were more powerful. He purposely threw in the towel. They don't mind losing. Gustav came to this realization. And you know why they wouldn't mind losing? Because winning Aesop isn't their reason for participating. The moment this thought drifted into Gustav's mind, he realized he could no longer give them the benefit of the doubt. Indulus Prime is up to something. He was now 100% sure. The other batches went on while Gustav's mind remained the dwelling place of a million thoughts as the hours rolled by. What were they after? What is their aim and objective? Is there a reason to go to such lengths? Is the whole planet in whatever scheme they're plotting? Or is it just the participants that are up to something? The battle challenge ended for the day, and Evergon moved to their various accommodation quarters while Gustav excused himself once more. He had gone to his agreed meeting point with a friend. "Why are you wearing a patch?" Gustav questioned as he noticed an eye patch on Stark's left eye. "It's just a little burn. It will heal up soon." Stark responded with a wry smile while rubbing his brow. "Was it you got injured from that?" Gustav was instantly able to tell where the injury came from. "Don't worry, it's just a minor burn," Stark dismissed while waving his hand. "You should get that looked at," Gustav said with a tone of concern. "I will for sure, just don't worry about it." Stark nodded. Gustav was troubled that Stark got injured because of his request. He turned to Stark as they paused their movement with an intrigued expression. "It was more difficult than I expected, and I started to feel the corrosion of my eyes after forcibly trying to see what was happening in their room last night." Stark began to recount the tale of events. "Did you manage to see anything?" Gustav inquired. "Yes, I did see something," Stark responded with a very troubled look. "Follow current novels on Top Novelful.com. Chapter 1267. Yes, I did see something, Stark responded with a very troubled look. "What is it?" At this point, Gustav's curiosity had piqued. "It's a bit difficult to explain." Stark paused briefly as he gathered his words. Gustav's facial expression was currently both focused and calm as he waited. Firstly, the interior looked nothing like being in this plane. It looked like a different dimension of its own. Stark began speaking. "What do you mean by, it looked like a different dimension of its own?" Gustav questioned. "I really don't know how to describe it, but that definitely wasn't a room. It was somewhere else." Stark sucked in cold breath as he recalled just how the feeling of seeing that environment gave him shivers. The Indulus Prime members had gathered in a circle and dark mist was flowing from their bodies. The dark mist was sustaining a projection of sorts. The projection was an item, but my mind didn't register its features properly before I lost vision in my left eye, Stark explained while softly rubbing his brow. That is barely enough to come up with a proper analysis, but I really appreciate your help so far," Gustav replied with an expression of suspicion while slightly holding his chin. "You're welcome. I wish I could have been of more help." Stark heaved a low sigh. "You can," Gustav stated. "How?" Stark eyes twinked. "You said you couldn't properly explain what you saw, and even though your mind didn't register it fast enough, it's definitely still in your memory since you viewed it. Where are you going with this?" "I have an ability that lets me explore and witness memories like they are mine. If I use it on you, I will be able to see what you saw." The moment Gustav suggested this, visible panic appeared on Stark's face for a brief instant before it was quickly followed by a chuckle. "Haha, I don't think that would be a good idea. I would have allowed, but I have quite some embarrassing memories from the last 24 hours. Stark rubbed his dreadlocks as he spoke. "I will only target your memory of the night before," Gustav stated with a reassuring tone. "I can't let you do that, breaching my mind, or memories too much of a personal thing for me to let you do." Stark shook his head. "I need this to help my friend. I don't know what those folks are planning, but it definitely isn't anything good." Gustav tried to convince him. "I'm sorry, but I refuse. I would help with anything else, but not this," Stark voiced with a dismissive tone. At this moment, Gustav considered taking an involuntary action, but quickly turned down that notion in his mind. I'm all right then. I understand. You've done plenty already. Gustav stopped pushing it at this point. Thank you for understanding. I really wished I could have helped more, Stark said with a tone of regret. No, thank you, Gustav emphasized with a tone of appreciation. So, what are you going to do now? Stark inquired. I have to find a way to figure out exactly what they're doing in there. I am more sure that winning Aesop was never their goal, and their reason for being here must have to do with whatever you saw that was being projected within that space, Gustav voiced lengthily before turning around. I have to go now, Gustav added before turning around. Wouldn't it be best to inform the organizers and those high rankers in the Alliance? Stark questioned before Gustav could leave. I can't do that without enough information and evidence to back my claims. I don't even know enough to be aware of what to accuse them with. So it wouldn't be a good idea, Gustav replied before dashing off. Swoosh by. His voice trailed off with the sound of the whooshing wind. After Gustav left, Stark heaved a sigh of relief. That was close, he muttered. Two figures appeared beside him in the next instant. I told you it was a bad idea to be acquainted with him. Family head, Viltru reiterated. It's fine. He doesn't suspect anything, Stark responded. He's hiding something, Gustav muttered as he arrived in Earth's accommodation area. Or he just doesn't want you in his head. I think Earthlings are pretty sensitive with their memories, the system voiced. No, this isn't the usual bashfulness that comes from trying to hide the embarrassing moments you wouldn't want anyone else to witness in your head, Gustav muttered with a glint at the corner of his eyes. I even offered to pick the specific time last night, and he still refused. He is hiding something beyond, that there's something he doesn't want you to see, Gustav added. And spell, nah, this is definitely something unrelated. Stark's personality would prevent him from doing something derogatory, but at the same time, whatever he is hiding is not so virtuous as well, which is why he doesn't want you to figure it out, Gustav analyzed with a slight tone of curiosity. Let it slide for now. I have bigger fish to fry. You're able to read people better now. Not bad, the system praised. And you're not too bad, Gustav ridiculed. I am not a creature of emotions. I think you should take a look at N's novel. Siamacron and whatever you say, robot, Gustav shrugged. Ouch, Gustav winced. I still live in you, the system reminded. Looks like I hit a nerve. Oh, wait, you don't have emotions, right? Keep yapping, it'll let you go into cardiac arrest next, the system threatened. Gustav had more words to hit her with, but decided to keep quiet as he tried to bury a chuckle. 2-week quest has been issued. Gustav stared at the corner of his eyes as he noticed the notification. You're so petty, Gustav shook his head. It's automatic. The system girly voice had a hint of helplessness. Gustav decided to check the details of the quest to confirm his thoughts of what it might entail. Quest: uncover what the Indulus Prime participants are up to. Rewards: +10 500 000 EXP, +1 random bloodline upgrade, +200 charm stats. Failure, +5 level downgrade. I thought as much, Gustav voiced after scanning through the details. I was already going to do this, Gustav mumbled. Now you're going to do it faster. And you're going to keep quiet since you're not being any help. Ouch, Gustav winced in pain again. Stop doing that, he stated before getting to his feet. You're going to meet Miss Amy? The system inquired. No, not yet. I wouldn't want her approaching the council lords again until I discover something tangible. Gustav shook his head as he walked through a passageway. He walked past a couple of doors till he arrived at the second to the last. He paused after arriving before this one, and was just about to knock when a voice rang out from within. It's open, big brother. SSHSSHHHH. The door slid towards the left in the next instant, granting Gustav access. Endrick could be spotted within this room in a cross-legged position, floating a few feet above the floor, while his forehead emitted a green glow. Does Big Brother need something? Endrick was surprised to see Gustav here, but internally excited. I hope being a time candidate, or whatever you call yourself, comes with perks, Gustav voiced while stepping forward. I need you to join me investigate something, he added. I'm glad you came to me mention anything, and it'll help, Endrick stated with a keen expression. I've discovered some things recently I'd like to share with you. After I do, the next course of my plan will be split into two. You'll handle one half of the task, and I'll take care of the rest, Gustav announced. I'm all ears. The night went by very quickly, and the next day arrived. The batches continuously rolled on, and participants moved out after getting challenged or challenging another participant. As usual, Gustav took note of the battles whenever he was not out fighting as usual. His perception was especially on Indulus Prime today as the battle challenge continued. Spectacular fighters appeared on the stages repeatedly, giving the spectators the entertainment they were here for, not knowing that a lot of things were brewing underneath the surface besides the ongoing ISOP. As the battle challenge continued, Gustav made sure his team members evaded some challenges so long as he felt something was off. This was the reason Earth had only lost 2 battles so far out of the many they had been in. Only a few planets hadn't lost a single battle since the challenge began. However, at this point things were getting more intense as a few planets fell below the 15,000 points requirement after losing more than a few battles. Without a doubt, these planets were automatically disqualified while the battle challenge went on. Chapter 1268. Without a doubt, these planets were automatically disqualified while the battle challenge went on. Gustav had only fought a single battle today since no one challenged him. After he won the battle, he took note of the fact that he had acquired enough points to challenge a certain opponent without having to worry about them declining. Tomorrow is the day, Gustav muttered underneath his breath as the image of a participant with multiple limbs appeared in his mind. At the end of the day, Handler 1 addressed the entire arena again. There will be disqualifications tomorrow, he began speaking. An air of tension spread across the spectators' area the moment Handler 1 revealed this. It wasn't like the participants hadn't been expecting there to be another disqualification period approaching. Nonetheless, a lot of them were troubled since they had no idea what the required number of points would be. The points required to maintain participation will be announced tomorrow by the end of the day, Handler 1 revealed. I implore participants to do their best and gather as much points as they can before the end of the day tomorrow, Handler 1 advised with an encouraging tone. He proceeded to mention a few more things before finally dismissing the participants. Everyone began heading back to their various accommodation areas once more, as the people within the massive arena soon thinned out. While the others headed back, Gustav excused himself once more and moved to a particular area outside of the arena. Zing, a button-shaped device appeared in his grasp, and he proceeded to plant it on his forehead. Cognitive concealment has been activated. His presence vanished in the next moment. No one was able to spot him unless they stared directly at him, despite his visibility. Gustav tapped the button on his forehead and disappeared completely. In the next moment, a large group consisting of dark figures wrapped up in bandage-like outfits from head to toe could be seen veering past. Dark, circular clouds were beneath their feet, which was levitating. These dark circular clouds drove them forward, and Gustav proceeded to follow in his invisible state. This group numbered in the hundreds, yet they didn't seem to be engaging in any conversations with each other as they flew past on these dark clouds. Hover has been activated. Gustav eventually activated Hover to keep up with them as they flew further away. They soon arrived in an area with triangular golden structures stacked atop each other, reaching 700 feet in height. Rho Alpha Pi D Alphas Nu Omicron V Epsilon L. Gustav went through the entry point with them, and there happened to be a few Ozus moving around, but no dialogue ensued between any of the Ozus and the dark figures. He followed a bunch to an area with rectangular glass barricades and got still without their knowledge of his presence. Thyanin, a burst of light from below, caused their figures to turn into streaks of dark lines that appeared hundreds of feet above. They immediately found themselves on one of the floors of this accommodation area. After arriving at this passageway, they began to separate, heading to different doorsteps positioned in multiple places here. Some headed in twos, and some were alone. Gustav picked a random figure to follow and headed in with them. This, of course, was a room, and the figure he followed moved to a spot and took a seat. Gustav looked around the area to see if he could find anything of substance, but it looked like a regular room to him. The Indulus Prime spectators area is much different from that of the participants, Gustav thought as he moved to a corner of the room. The Indulus Prime participants area would be filled with darkness by this time, which was something Gustav would have expected. Yet nothing of such happened. The spectators' accommodation area just seemed regular, like nothing was going on. The invisibility button on Gustav's forehead was already a few seconds to running out of power. His skin began to morph along with his outfit as he took the exact look of the golden-plated walls. He backed into the wall and grabbed a new invisibility button from his storage device. The moment the invisibility button ran out of power, it looked like Gustav was a part of the wall. His hair, face, skin, and every part of his body had taken the exact look and texture of the wall. He had hidden in a passageway area within the room, so he was currently out of sight for the Indulus Prime species here. Nonetheless, he didn't want to take any chances and shapeshifted this way. Gustav swiftly placed a new invisibility button on his forehead and tapped it. His figure vanished once more, and he moved back to the main room area. The Indulus Prime spectator he followed happened to still be seated in place. From the looks of things, he had not moved a single inch, which had Gustav a little suspicious. Gustav proceeded to look around the place more and activated God Eyes to be sure he didn't miss anything. Is this normal? Gustav's suspiciousness increased as his sight phased through the walls around him. They're immobile. The system voiced internally. I thought it was just him, but every single Indulus Prime spectator on this floor is in the same state, Gustav said as he looked around. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Other Indulus Prime spectators, like the one he had followed, all sat in their rooms, not moving a muscle or an inch. They were just stationary. Check other floors, the system suggested. Gustav proceeded to set his sights downwards, and God Eyes phased through the walls beneath, only for him to be met with the same view. Every single Indulus Prime spectator was in a sitting position. They didn't move, they didn't try to take off their outfit, or engage in any indoor activities. They remained stationary after taking a seat. Is this normal? Is it a species thing? Gustav questioned internally. Absolutely not. The Indulus Prime species are creatures of darkness, yes, but that doesn't mean they lack basic desires and ability to interact with one another like other beings. This isn't normal at all. The system answered immediately. It almost seems like they're in a kind of trance state. Gustav deactivated God Eyes and moved closer to the Indulus Prime spectator before him. Gustav squatted and stared directly at the dark eyes of the being before him. It was difficult to analyze anything from a pair of eyes that seemed to hold infinite darkness within, but Gustav could tell that something was off, especially due to their current state. Gustav slowly stretched his hand forward as the eeriness in the environment grew by the moment. His hand was a few inches from making contact when the system stopped him. I don't think making contact with any of them would be a good idea. Gustav paused his hand movement at this point and stood to his feet. It's almost like they were programmed to all be this way, like computers. Task programs go into stationary mode after the completion of a task unless given a new one. Gustav slowly backed away as theories appeared in his mind. His perception was still spread across the entire building, so even without God Eyes, he could tell that none of them had taken a single step away from their seating position. Someone is responsible for this for sure, but the question remains who? Indulus Prime sure has other motives for joining ISOP, but I can't even find who pulls the strings amongst the spectators who are supposed to be authorities on their planet. At this point, things were getting even more confusing. This isn't the only location that the Indulus Prime spectators occupy, the system voiced. Did they separate earlier? Gustav questioned. Not really. The others stayed within the arena for reasons unknown, the system answered. I'll observe these ones for some time. If there are no changes, I'll head to the arena, Gustav decided. The environment was eerily silent as the being of darkness before Gustav remained seated in place while Gustav continued staying out of sight while inspecting the vicinity. Will you finally accept? What happens if I do? You will become like me, son. You will become #% and #% #caret static. I don't want to become #% and #%caret. #caret/P Pete you will have all the power in the world. You will be next in line for the throne. /P I don't want your throne. /P Pete you don't have a choice. /P what if I keep refusing? /P Pete you will lose your loved ones. /P don't you dare harm them. /P Pete son I couldn't even harm them even if I wanted to. /P then /P Pete no I want me the one harming them. /P SSHHSHHHH /P this month began terribly and has been going terribly since. WN has been slashing the stats of the bloodline system, and books that haven't updated in ages with lesser engagements are appearing higher on the trending rankings. Chapter 1269 Son I couldn't even harm them, even if I wanted to. Then no, I want me the one harming them. SSHHSHHHH. The dark vicinity immediately lightened up, and a scenario of a human figure with dark tattoos all over his body could be seen slaughtering a group. The group entailed familiar faces. Angie, Gustav, Endrick, Eldris, Team Matilda. They all stared at the human figure like he was a monster as he ran them through with dark spikes and ripped hearts out of their bodies. It was an extremely brutal sight as they tried to back away. What are you? Soon enough, every single one from the group had their body parts splattered across the place as the human figure with dark tattoos stood in place with an expression of gratification on his face. You, my son, will be the one to harm your loved ones if you keep refusing to accept the crown. Falco eyelids flickered before his eyes suddenly sprang open. He screamed as he noticed he was laying at the edge of a copper-colored roof atop a building which was over 4,000 feet in height. The rooftop had a long golden-colored pole in the middle, which extended upwards. Falco had nearly rolled off the top of this building upon his reawakening, since he found himself at the edge. He looked around in fear as he quickly jumped to his feet. It was currently nighttime, so it seemed like no one had noticed the human figure at the top of this building. How did I get here? Falco questioned with a tone of fear. Ta, 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 ta. The sound of liquid dropping onto the copper-colored rooftop drew Falco's attention as he slowly turned around with an expression of horror on his face. Fwai, a small breeze blew across the rooftop, causing a metallic smell to drift into his nostrils as he stared at what was before him with widened eyes. The golden-colored pole poking out of the middle of the rooftop had a figure impaled on it. The figure had gotten impaled so deep that their body was halfway to its bottom, while the rest of the pole had cleanly pierced through their body. From the massive width of the poke, the hole that had been left in the chest of this figure was as large as 4 human heads combined. Dry greenish blood coated the tip of the pole and had also been smudged across the body of the pole. Blood dropped in clusters from the body as it remained in a stationary position. Falco's heart nearly broke through his ribcage as it pounded heavily while he took steps forward. Insect-like limbs flailed, and bloody, a nauseating metallic stench had spread across the air from the blood. The dried blood on parts of the pole and the small droplets falling from the corpse told Falco that it had been hours since this person died. He gulped down saliva as he came to a realization. A handler, he muttered while stretching his hand forward in a bid to examine the corpse. He paused. He noticed his entire arm coated in greenish blood. Ha! Falco raised his other arm and noticed it had dry bloodstains on it as well. His breathing turned even more hurried as he took steps backward. No, this cannot be. Falco noticed more stains on his outfit as he continued taking steps backwards till he arrived at the ledge of the rooftop. No. Falco turned around as dark tattoos appeared all across his body and leapt into the air. He disappeared into the distance in the next moment, leaving the corpse in the possession of the silent rooftop. The next morning, spectators and participants had gathered in the arena once more as the battle challenge began for the day. The computerized Sayadam began picking out the participants for batches as battles began once more. Cheers, cheers, Yaha whoop. The entire arena was noisy as usual and happened to be even more excited today since there was going to be disqualifications. The spectators speculated about the number of required points, but there was really no way to know until Handler 1 announced it at the end of the day. Today was also the second to the last day before the battle challenge would end. After tomorrow, a new challenge would be announced, and the number of participants left at that point will be significantly lesser. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Khmaisop was slowly approaching its finish point. While the battles were ongoing, Gustav noticed there was a bit of a pandemonium where the handlers were situated. It didn't last very long, and they had managed not to cause a ruckus, but Gustav noticed it nonetheless. "You were gone all night," Angie voiced from the side. "Yes," Gustav answered while still observing the other side of the arena, which was more than 50,000 feet away. "Why, you've been away more and more lately," Angie said with a concerned tone. "I was busy," Gustav responded. "Busy with what?" she said while placing her hand on Gustav's chin and turning his head to face her. "A lot," Gustav replied. "Angie, I'll let you and the others in when I know what I'm dealing with." Gustav knew she was curious about what he was up to, but still couldn't tell her yet. Angie heaved a low sigh of defeat. She already knew how Gustav was, so she stopped trying to poke. While the battle continued, Gustav turned to stare at the Indulus Prime participants' area of the arena. "They seem rather functional now," the system voiced. At this point my speculation is half proven," Gustav said internally as he recalled what went down last night. Rho Alpha Pi D Alpha S Nu Omicron V Epsilon L. The Indulus Prime spectators all remained in a stationary state for hours, and Gustav was running out of invisibility buttons, so he eventually left. He visited the arena, and just like the system mentioned, a few of them stayed back. These 10 Indulus Prime spectators seemed a little different from the others and happened to be engaging in a conversation upon Gustav's arrival. Unfortunately, Gustav didn't gather any tangible information, as they seemed to be having a normal conversation about Aesop. Gustav couldn't stay for too long since he was running out of invisibility buttons, but at the moment where he was about leaving, something unexpected happened. One of the spectators mentioned a point about the Aesop participants that he had said before. This spiraled the conversation they were having back to the start. It was like Gustav was watching a loop play out before him, as these Indulus Prime spectators proceeded to reenact the conversations from the start. Gustav was on his last invisibility button and had already gotten himself a great distance away when he felt an approaching figure. Fortunately, he still had cognitive concealment activated, and 30 seconds of invisibility left, so Gustav stuck around to identify this figure. Indulus Prime Vice Captain. Gustav noticed who it was, and despite being thousands of feet, he heard the Vice Captain lament. "A malfunction?" The Vice Captain proceeded to thrust his palm forward. A wave of darkness encircled the 10, and in the next instant, they stopped their conversation. They stood up afterwards and began to file out of the arena like the ones Gustav had followed hours earlier. As expected, these 10 moved to the same accommodation area, and as soon as they arrived within their various rooms, they became immobile like the rest. Gustav had run out of invisibility buttons at this point, and knew it would be unwise to keep observing them on a closer scale, so he finally left. He wanted to make sure the Indulus Prime had no idea that he was onto them. He had to move with extreme caution. They are puppets, all right, but who is pulling the strings? This was the question that Gustav continuously asked in his mind. They have gone back to being lively, but I have analyzed their speech patterns. It is mostly repetitive, like a program. The system elucidated. How come you're helping me? This is practically a quest, and you've never helped me in a quest before. Gustav questioned internally. Then I shall stop now. I didn't ask you to stop. Humph, you might as well have. Why are you cranky like a girl on her period? You, how dare you? Proving me right as usual. I have no emotions. Yep, right. Gustav went back to focusing his sights on the Indulus Prime spectators and participants while battles ensued. The spectators watched as battles got intense with the continuous passing of time, since many planetary groups were trying their best to raise as much points as they could. After the 32nd batch of the day, Gustav saw his name appear on the screens as part of the next batch. Finally, Gustav had been waiting for this moment all day. He stood to his feet, gathering the attention of spectators all across the arena, as well as participants. Chapter 1270. He stood to his feet, gathering the attention of spectators all across the arena, as well as participants. Who do you think he will challenge? Normal participants stand no chance. So I'm sure they're praying not to be picked. Didn't he point at somewhere after winning the battle against Captain Kriv the last time? The spectators couldn't help but speculate about who Gustav would challenge, but only he and a few others knew who he had in mind. Gustav arrived before the stage and slowly moved in. It was a glacial type of battle stage. Icicles that were thousands of feet long were scattered all across the place. Gigantic ice palaces, which had massive chains wrapped around them, could also be seen across the air. These massive chains pierced through multiple ice structures, holding them in midair, and ran through the icy ground beneath as well. In another area, it protruded out of the icy ground and extended high into the air, wrapping around a T-shaped ice rock, thousands of feet away from Gustav's position. Gustav stepped forward and soon arrived at the middle of the battle stage. All eyes were on him at this moment as he picked the planet he had in mind. The jaws of many spectators dropped as Gustav went on to pick his opponent amongst the group of 20. Wawa, chatter, chatter, chatter. Did he just challenge Captain Strum? Damn, are we going to finally see a battle between these two? I can't believe this is happening. This is about to be the most intense battle since the start. The arena turned super noisy as the screens displayed who Gustav had challenged. In the Draconet's participants area, Captain Strum stood in place for a moment while shooting an intense glance at the stage. He couldn't decline the challenge, since Gustav had accumulated more points than him, but he didn't intend to decline in the first place. He made a low humph as he began to step forward with a dangerous aura of animosity spreading forth from his being. His teammates didn't utter a word as they remained in place with fearsome looks. Any remark could irk him, and they didn't want to be on the receiving end of his fury, which was slowly starting to build up. Captain Strum leapt upwards, causing his figure to travel across the air as he made his way towards the northeast part of the arena. His figure phased through the barrier Gustav was situated in as he dropped from the air. Bam! He landed a few feet ahead of Gustav, and the two figures glared at each other. Brace yourself, you might not come out alive, Captain Strum stated with a tone of certainty. What a coincidence. I was just about to say that, Gustav responded with an icy tone. Gustav Crimson, Planet Earth, versus Strum Zilgard, Planet Draconet. You harmed a friend. I will inflict 10 times worse the pain you inflicted on him. Gustav said while slowly taking steps forward as his body morphed. He was a weakling, and you shall suffer the same fate, Gustav Crimson, Captain Strum stated while a massive shadowy figure appeared behind him. I won't drag this out, Captain Strum voiced with a prideful tone as the massive shadowy figure behind him conjured a massive bluish spear. Likewise, Gustav's figure charged forward as he took the ultimate combination form. Silver claws protruded from the tip of his fingers as he slashed intensely at Captain Strum's direction, while Captain Strum grabbed the bluish spear his Encore has provided him and swung it forward with great might. The energy from Gustav's slash traveled forward, clashing heavily with the incoming spear that was 4 times larger than Gustav's entire body. However, the bluish spear emitted an energy that caused the wild energy from Gustav's slash to reverse and disappear like it was never there. FYI, Gustav leapt towards the side as his attack was interrupted by the incoming bluish spear. He managed to evade the spear, causing it to brush by his left. The moment Gustav successfully evaded, he sped in Captain Strum's direction. Fuhush, he arrived before the multiple-limbed Draken instantly, while slashing at his chest. This speed had no doubt taken Captain Strum by surprise, but he was able to react quickly by raising 2 arms to block Gustav's slash. Gustav's claws smoothly cleaved through both of Captain Strum's arms, causing a fountain of blood to jet upwards. I think you should take a look at Snovel. Kamai's attack was still powerfully slashing forward when 2 more arms from Captain Strum's body grabbed Gustav's forearm. Captain Strum had sacrificed 2 of his arms to stop Gustav's attack. The moment Gustav's right arm was held back, he tried making use of his left arm to attack when Captain Strum's last 2 hands grabbed hold of that as well. They stared at each other with hatred in their eyes as Captain Strum gathered as much power as he could into his 4 functioning arms to hold Gustav down in place. FYI, Gustav instantly understood Captain Strum's reason for trapping him in place the moment he sensed the approaching doom. A massive bluish spear was only a few inches from colliding with his back when everyone noticed it. Thraz's Gustav and Captain Strum turned into a streak of lightning and reappeared on the southern end of the barrier instantly, atop a rocky ice structure. Roalfen Dialfes Nu Omicron V Epsilon L. Unfortunately, with Captain Strum clinging on to Gustav tightly, the lightning blitz took effect on him as well. You cannot. Escape. Your end is nigh. Gustav Crimson. Captain Strum was still bleeding profusely from his cleaved-off forearms while struggling to hold Gustav in place. FYI, the spear that had missed came back around, flying at Gustav once more. It tore through multiple icy palaces, which immediately turned into light particles and disappeared upon contact. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Gustav and Captain Strum's figures turned into streaks of lightning and vanished once more as the massive spear missed for the 3rd time. It's starting to affect the laws of time in the vicinity. Gustav noticed as he realized the spear was causing things in the environment to slow down the further it closed in on them. Lightning Blitz was affected by this and took a longer time to get them to the end of the barrier on the other side. However, it was still fast enough to evade. Gustav knew this could become more of a problem if he didn't get out of the current predicament. The moment they reappeared on the other end, Gustav's figure suddenly grew massive. Captain Strum struggled to hold on, but Gustav's arms grew larger than he could wrap his hands around, causing him to let go. Gustav had reached 100 feet in height, becoming a giant with ultimate combination, still active in almost an instant. FYI, the massive bluish spear whistled across the air as it found its target. However, in the next instant, everyone's eyes widened as Captain Strum was hoisted like a piece of paper by Gustav and flung in the direction of the incoming spear. The spear was shooting across the air so swiftly that it had arrived before its creator quicker than anyone could follow. Captain Strum clenched his teeth and slapped 2 of his palms together hastily. Twai. The massive bluish spear was only an inch from making contact with him when it turned into light particles that slowly scattered across the stage. Captain Strum panted intensely as he proceeded to grab 2 flickers of the light particles and place them on his cleaved-off arms. Thrire, his arms instantly grew back like Gustav never cleaved them off in the first place. The moment Gustav noticed this, his forehead creased as he considered this to be a blunder on his part. Captain Strum should have gotten hit by his own attack, but instead used it to rehabilitate himself. What Gustav didn't know was he had just caused Captain Strum to break out in cold sweat. He had never battled an opponent like Gustav before, and now he realized he had to be more careful than ever. Gustav charged forward, while reducing in size, since the only reason he grew this tall in the first place was to get out of Captain Strum's hold. Captain Strum clenched his teeth as his face displayed a look of annoyance. "You will not bring shame to my great planet," he roared while charging forward as well. "I want, but I promise you will." Gustav yelled back. They arrived before each other and fists were instantly exchanged. Bang, 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 bang. Ripples spread across the place as Gustav swung his arm forward repeatedly, packing the force of 1,000 meteorites with every strike. He precisely aimed at different spots of Captain Strum's body, ranging from his face to his chest and abdominal region. Captain Strum was slower than Gustav, but due to his 6 arms, he managed to keep up with Gustav's strike, dealing an almost equal amount of destructive force with each of his strikes as well. Chapter 1271. Captain Strum was slower than Gustav, but due to his 6 arms, he managed to keep up with Gustav's strike, dealing an almost equal amount of destructive force with each of his strikes as well. Bang, boom, boom, boom. All the spectators could see were thousands of blurry fists, all moving forward at the same time and causing the icicle rocks in the vicinity to quake intensely as some of them crumbled from the impact. "I have gone toe-to-toe with the strongest being here. You are nothing," Gustav stated with a powerful tone as his fists suddenly began to increase in strength and speed while he pushed forward. "What is this? Why is he getting stronger?" Captain Strum did his best to maintain a prideful expression, but soon found himself getting pushed back. SSHHHSSHHH. His figure began sliding across the icy ground as Gustav pushed forward. At this moment, his encore appeared behind Gustav and conjured another massive bluish spear. Thura! It stabbed the spear downwards with intensity at Gustav's tiny figure. Gustav felt his body contract a little as his speed decreased with spear closing in on him. Lightning Blitz has been activated, Thraz has. His figure turned into a streak of lightning that reappeared on the massive 2,000 feet icicle, which was on the far right. Bang! The massive bluish, glowing spear missed, stabbing into the ground before Captain Strum. A wide reduise of the ground turned into light particles and disintegrated upon contact. Captain Strum figured that Gustav's evasion would give him a bit of time to gather himself when a loud blast suddenly rang out. It had come from Gustav's direction. Screeve, Gustav had leapt down the giant icicle and swung his claws towards its base. The 2,000 feet large icicle was uprooted from its base, and Gustav could be spotted holding it up. Before Captain Strum could understand what was going on, Gustav's figure spun across the air with immense speed while the massive icicle was in his grasp. "Don't be a bother." His voice rang out, and in the next instant the massive icicle shot forward the moment he released it. Tush! Rho Alpha Pi D Alpha S Nu Omicron V Epsilon L. Captain Strum had his encore conjure another spear in the last moment, which it swung forward to parry the incoming icicle projectile. Boom! Upon collision, the 2,000 feet long icicle split into 2 halves and then crumbled into multiple large icy chunks that slowly began to disintegrate in midair. However, some of the large ice chunks slammed into Captain Strum's encore before they vanished like stones that had been catapulted. Bang! 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 The massive encore staggered backwards as it took damage. Meanwhile, Gustav's figure had moved the moment he turned the 2,000 feet icicle into a projectile. He arrived before Captain Strum once more, while sending forth a flurry of attacks. Boom, 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 boom. They clashed repeatedly once more, stirring up destructive ripples that spread across the entire battle stage. KRRYYCHHHH. KRRYYCHHH. Despite not making direct contact with the barriers covering the stage, cracks and fissures had already appeared all over them. Bang, 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 bang. You have the power of time, but guess what? Gustav's cold voice penetrated the ears Captain Strum as he continuously pushed him backwards with more powerful barrages. HNNGHH. Captain Strum's face scrunched up as he tried to keep up with his 6 arms. I'm faster, Gustav stated before taking up his speed by another notch. Captain Strum's eyes only noticed a bunch of blurs before a couple of Gustav's fists tore past his arms, which were also swinging forward in defense. Bang, 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 bang. It was like 4 fists had hit Captain Strum at the same time as he suddenly felt heavy force slam into his face, neck, chest, and abdominal region. Clerk. Captain Strum's entire body was sent flying across the air as he puked out blood, while his back caved out. Bam, 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 bam. He slammed through a plethora of giant icy rocks, breaking right through them as his body continuously traveled further across the air from the attacks. Also, am stronger in this state. Gustav's voice rang out right beside his ears as one of his eyes suddenly spotted a figure above him. Bang! Another powerful fist slammed into Captain Strum's face before he could react, sending him tumbling downwards heavily. Boom! His body created a crater the moment it collided with the icy ground, causing cracks to spread across the entire vicinity. I think you should take a look at Snovel. Kumfwayuii. Gustav didn't stop for a moment as his figure streaked downwards, leaving afterimages across the air. Boom! He landed on Captain Strum's figure, causing the Draken to further burrow into the icy ground from collision. Gustav proceeded to grab his head immediately and spun around with intense speed before flinging him forward. At this point, Captain Strum's eyes were starting to turn blurry as his figure crashed into an icy palace hanging thousands of feet away from the ground. The spectators were in awe at how incredibly violent and intense Gustav was being. They compared this battle to the one with the captain of the Klaxosapes and realized Gustav had taken things up a notch. It was almost like he was more powerful and more intentful with his attacks, which were well calculated. All in all, it was different. Was Gustav just stronger when he was fueled by hatred, or had learnt from his last intense battle and used that to improve himself? GHHRHH. This damned earthling. I can't keep letting him humiliate me like this, Captain Strum thought as he reached out to grab Gustav's hands again to stop him from striking. Bam, bam, bam. He managed to catch one of Gustav's hands and tried to block a couple of blows from the other one, but ended up missing one of them. Bang. Another fist to the face sent Captain Strum crashing towards the T-shaped icy rock on the other end of the barrier. FYI, Gustav's figure ascended and streaked across the air once more while brandishing his claws. However, before he could arrive at Captain Strum's position, the Draken made a hand gesture. Captain Strum's Encore suddenly appeared behind him and scooped him up. Screeve, the massive T-shaped icy mountain, lost its head as silvery energy from Gustav's claws tore across its entirety. Captain Strum, who was above, leapt to the head of his 120 feet tall Encore. The shadowy Encore's entire frame lit up at this moment. A thorny-looking glowing halo could be spotted floating above its head, and over 12 eyeballs arranged in a circular format appeared on the halo. It looked like the Encore was clad in a robe, and it emitted a bright blue glow, but its head lacked a face. A powerful pressure descended upon the environment as the Encore stood before Gustav like a deity. Strum has activated the full power of his Encore. Things are about to get even more intense. Let's hope the Earthling survives. The Earth Captain has proven to be tough, but this is the end for him in the Draken spectators area. They had looks of relief as they stared at the battle with Captain Strum's Encore emitting a blinding glow. They were initially worried seeing how the battle had been going with Gustav's speed being greater than anyone had expected, but now their confidence had returned. On the battle stage, Captain Stum raised one of his arms, and an intensifying glow appeared around his palm. I didn't get to show you my full strength the last time. Feast your sight upon my pow. Before Captain Strum could complete his sentence, a silver streak cut across the air. Shut up. Gustav's palm crashed into Captain Strum's face in the next instant. Pah! The loud, crispy slap reverberated across the entire arena, causing the jaws of spectators to hang loosely as the prideful captain got catapulted off the head of his Encore. Fwy! This darned Earthling! I will destroy you! Captain Strum yelled as a great wave of humiliation washed over him. Gustav was about to charge at Captain Strum once more, since he was starting to stabilize his body in midair. However, at this instant the eyes surrounding the massive glowing halo turned to stare at him. Gustav suddenly felt a strange sensation permeate his entire body as he froze for an instant. That's new, he said internally with an expression of confoundment. This is not good. The system suddenly voiced. What is not good? At this same moment, the Encore joined its halves together, and a bright glow bursted forth from its being. It was like a harmless surge of energy that spread forth across the entire battle stage, covering Gustav and everything else within. As Gustav raised his hand, he noticed mirages forming due to his movement, making his arm look like it was more than 10 in number. Fly high at this instant, Captain Strum suddenly charged at Gustav, his speed multiplying by 10 times its original. Chapter 1272, The Astonishing Power of Time. At this instant, Captain Strum suddenly charged at Gustav, his speed multiplying by 10 times its original. Fwy high, this is the end for you, he voiced as he raised all 6 of his arms the moment he arrived before Gustav. Zing, 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 zing. His palms emitted bluish glows as he thrust at Gustav, who tried to move swiftly. However, mirages of Gustav appeared across the air in the next moment, lining up sideways as they displayed his exact movements before he even made them. Bang, 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 bang. Following Gustav's current pattern prediction, Captain Strum thrust his palms in the direction Gustav was evading to hitting him square on. Before Gustav's body got blasted back, mirages had already appeared behind him, displaying the distance at which his body would travel after this hit. It seemed like time had come to a standstill at this moment as Captain Strum's figure vanished and appeared where Gustav would be before thrusting repeatedly once more. Bang, 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 bang. Gustav spat out blood as his figure got blasted forward again with immense force from Captain Strum's multiple attacks. All Gustav could see at this moment was that Captain Strum was everywhere at the same time. He would get hit before he could even process the attack that came before. If his body was blasted from behind, he would be hit the moment he veered forward a bit from up ahead, only for him to be hit again by another Captain Strum before he could realize what was going on. Bang, 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 bang. While Gustav was repeatedly taking these attacks due to being unable to avoid them, his silver scales were disappearing. Any part of his body where Captain Strum made contact with some of features of that body part would vanish. HNGHH. He turned the battle ring into a time domain. This is beyond foresight. He can predict my movements, practically seeing into the future. Time is slowed down for me, but quick for him. So it's like he pauses time after every movement, which makes it seem like he is everywhere. Gustav analyzed as he repeatedly waved arms around to block attacks, all to no avail. Despite Gustav's speed in the state of ultimate combination, he was literally in a stand-still motion before Captain Strum. Captain Strum was bending time to his will around the entire vicinity, leaving Gustav no chance to evade or counter his attacks. Soon the blue glow that encapsulated the battle stage began to spread beyond. Chatter, chatter, chatter. The arena turned noisier as panic spread across. No one was interested in getting affected by Captain Strum's time-related power, especially after seeing how Gustav was affected. Redirect the spread of the energy right now. Handler 1 swiftly gave command to a group of handlers who quickly swooped forward to take care of the situation. Every time a battle includes Earth's captain, extra precautions need to be taken. Handler 1 had a worrisome look as he peered forward. The current predicament seemed perilous for Gustav, but he was working on a way to get out of it despite having sustained lots of damage. Thria, his entire frame, got covered in layers of Iro silk, as he also made use of atomic manipulation. The Iro silk soon became covered in milky-colored energy as well. Pointless. My power of time reverses all. Captain Strum's voice rang loudly in Gustav's ears as he began furiously attacking the barrier Gustav had surrounded him with. Bang, 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 bang. The repeated sound of collision rang out, and from the spectators' area, it looked like a rocky structure was zipping across the battle stage at fast pace due to Captain Strum's furious barrages. For now, Gustav was free from taking damage from Captain Strum's attack. However, anyone could tell that this wouldn't last. The strong power of atomic disintegration was no match for time, as it slowly vanished with every strike along with the Iro silk barrier. Time is a power that cannot be battled against. Even the strongest beings in this universe cannot battle certain aspects of time. I need to make time dysfunctional to escape this. Gustav's mind was running at a very quick pace. Millions of thoughts appeared in his mind as the barrier whittled away. If I use that, it won't have much effect unless I stack them, and he doesn't see it coming, but he sees everything coming. Gustav was having a hard time figuring out what to do, but soon he decided on something. Captain Strum zipped backwards, suddenly as mirages of red ripples spread across the place. In the next instant, the real ripples of crimson energy blasted forth across the entire vicinity. Captain Strum had gotten away in time to avoid the blast due to his prediction ability in full swing. However, the moment the blast whittled down, Captain Strum felt an unfathomable pull from up ahead. His eyes widened slightly as a sphere-shaped ball of energy oozing with dark matter appeared before him. What the? He tried to escape, but the pull was too great, and he found himself unable to move for a couple of moments. A mirage of a human figure appeared behind him bearing a fist, while he was trying to escape the unprecedented pull from the dark sphere ahead, which had a ring swirling around it. Absolute. Before Captain Strum could complete his sentence, Gustav's bloody figure appeared behind him. His arm, which was arched back, shot forward with extreme speed, parting the air in the surroundings and causing powerful waves to spread sideways in its wake bang. It was like all of Gustav's pent-up frustration was stacked into this punch as it crashed into Captain Strum's back, sending him blasting forward, with destructive rips shooting across the battle stage. Crank. The first layer of barrier surrounding the stage shattered as Captain Strum's back caved in, while he spat out a mouthful of white blood. The spherical-shaped dark sphere ahead pulled Captain Strum to its surface, causing his entire figure to twitch in slow motion, as it seemed like he had been incapacitated. Sing, 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 sing. Gustav raised both his arms, causing small swirling balls of darkness to appear around him. These balls were each the size, or a fist, but they emitted a powerful suction force. Zing, 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 zing. Blue spherical-shaped balls of energy that were 10 times the size of the dark balls appeared in place as well and proceeded to absorb the dark balls. The blue spherical-shaped balls turned blackish after absorbing the palm-sized swirling dark balls of energy. However, this wasn't the end, as Gustav made more of the dark balls appeared. Zing, 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 the three large spheres that were initially blue turned even darker as they absorbed more of these balls. The suction force became so great that everything within the battle stage started getting pulled towards them. Gustav clasped his palms together, and the spherical-shaped dark balls of energy swept forward, each positioning themselves on the south, east, and western sides of Captain Strum, who seemed to be struggling to set himself free. The suction force from all four of these spherical balls pulled Captain Strum from every corner, threatening to rip him to shreds. Every physical object in the vicinity was crumbling to atoms and being swallowed by the four spherical dark balls of energy. The icicles, the massive ice rocks, the massive ice palaces, the place-sized chains holding them, the battle stage, the layers of barriers. The spectators watched in awe as everything was getting consumed very quickly, light included. GHHRRHHHH. GHHRRHHHH. The entire arena that spanned for hundreds of thousands of feet began quaking despite the fact that not every layer of barrier had been destroyed. What Gustav had done was activate a mini black hole after using energy dispersal as a feint to get Captain Strum to evade. While Captain Strum was powerful and could twist the laws of time, he wouldn't take such an attack head-on, especially when it covered such a range. That split moment was enough for Gustav to activate Mini Black Hole and conjured as many as he could within a second time frame before letting one of his spherical energy absorbers consume it. Theoretically, the spherical energy that Gustav used for absorbing the mini black holes should have been consumed, but because Gustav was currently making use of combination, he was able to combine them efficiently. With the spheres absorbing multiple mini black holes, they began even powerful black holes, which he used against Captain Strum. Strum couldn't see this despite his prediction ability, since Gustav was capable of making his spheres invisible. He only noticed it after the suction force had began pulling him to consume his entire existence. Gustav knew that black holes had effect on time. Despite not being able to stop time completely, the time dilation effects of a black hole was what he counted on to at least trap Captain Strum for a few. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1273. He conjured more to be on the safe side due to Captain Strum time-related abilities, but now it was looking like he had overdone it. The ninth layer of the barrier surrounding the battle stage crumbed to atoms as well and got consumed by the black holes. Captain Strum's Encore was surprisingly powerful enough to withstand the force of the black holes in its current state and stared at Gustav with four of its eyes. Gustav was well aware that it was about to activate an attack, but it was currently moving slowly due to black holes around. Captain Strum's limbs were slowly ripping apart as he did his best to withstand the force of all four. But what Gustav didn't realize was Captain Strum was struggling to utter a word. He didn't take notice of this because he had already flown towards the Encore, ready to pierce it with powerful attacks. The handlers were running helter-skelter trying to contain the spread of the destructiveness from Gustav and Captain Strum's battle stage, which was spreading further, disrupting other battles as well as spectators. Some of the powerful spectators joined hands to help despite their astonished expressions. The battle stage was void of physical objects, as everything had been swallowed up, and the ninth barrier got blasted to pieces as well. Down below, the damage had eaten deep into the battleground, that it had created a hole through this part of the ninth disk. The solar system could be spotted with an expanse of darkness spreading as far as the eyes could see. Strum, break out of it. Don't disappoint me. In the Draken spectators area, Bronze medially clenched his fist tightly with a tensed expression as she stared at the battlefield. Who knew the Earth was capable of using the power of black holes? Another Draken by the side, who had widened eyes, voiced out. Many of the Drakens were currently on their feet with tensed and troubled expression as they stared at the state of the entire arena. Gustav's usage of abilities had surpassed their expectations and taken them by surprise. In this state, Strum was supposed to be unstoppable, but Gustav had proven to be truly beyond phenomenal. Come on, Strum. He still hasn't used that. Despite the destruction the entire arena was undergoing, which was disrupting the battles on other stages, a lot of spectators were at the edge of their seats, watching with keen eyes. It still seemed like Captain Strum was uttering something, albeit very slowly. His limbs were already ripping from his body as the black hole's suction force caused space around them to tear and mend continuously. Gustav had arrived before his Encore, but any attack he sent at the Encore would just reverse and completely vanish. The Encore was incapable of attacking Gustav at the moment, but reverse was also the case. Gustav, seeing as his attacks were getting reversed, turned towards Captain Strum. It was time to end this from the source. Gustav conjured another attack, and was about to charge at Captain Strum, when the bright blue glow emitting from the Encore suddenly became more vibrant. At this moment, Gustav was left with an expression of regret as he turned to stare at the Encore he had failed to damage. Absolute zero. Captain Strum's loud voice rang across the entire arena. Thririon, the vibrancy of the light emitted from the Encore phased past the barrier surrounding the stage. Thririon, it proceeded to encapsulate the entirety of the arena and then spread past the arena at very quick pace. From the space watchtower of planet Ozius, their mouths widened as the glow spread across the entire 9 discs and covered them as well in a flash. In just a few moments, the glow had spread across galaxies, causing every single being bathed in its glow to pause their movements. Everything came to a standstill: spectators, participants, humans, extraterrestrial life forms. I think you should take a look at Snovel. C Omicron Emro Alpha by D Alpha S Nu Omicron V Epsilon L. Everything that existed came to standstill, including the most powerful people present, as spectators in ISOP. Ha! Did he pause time? Gustav's eyeballs shifted as his figure paused in midair with his arms extended. He did. He manipulated time on a universal scale this time. Even your black holes are affected. The system confirmed. Then, how come I am still conscious and aware? Gustav questioned internally. You're a cosmic superior being. You're one of the few people in the entire universe who is not completely affected by the power of time. In other words, you are immune in some aspects, but not entirely, the system explained. Am I the only one in ISOP who is currently conscious of this? Gustav noticed that no one else was moving. You are not. The others here are just choosing not to interfere or cannot interfere, even if they are aware. But yes, everyone else is affected. At the same moment the system finished explaining this, time began to reverse. FYI, Gustav could feel his body affected by the bending laws of time as his figure reversed along with the atoms of objects in the vicinity turning back to physical matter, rescinding from the black holes. Well, damn, he didn't just pause time. He's rewinding it. Gustav came to this realization as Captain Strum's limbs, which had been ripped from his body, reattached. This is completely different from the spear attacks he had been using. This is time reversal on a universal scale. Miss Amy sat in place staring at the vicinity around her. She could clearly see that time was being manipulated on a large scale at this moment, and just like her, a few other powerful entities were aware. The few powerful entities like her that could break out of its hold would still be aware of everything that had happened even when time had been reversed to the point that Strum was aiming for. Now, how are you going to handle this, kid? Miss Amy was no doubt worried about the current predicament, since Gustav had never faced anyone on this level before, but she didn't want to interfere. It was his fight. Her figure slowly floated upwards. While everyone within the bubble of light were reversing, she watched from above with an expression of intrigue. Specks of sands were reversing and turning into solid objects, merging with the area they were currently situated within. The attacks from Gustav's figure had reversed back into his body, and he floated around the stage while time slowly reversed. The cracks on the barriers were mending and returning back to their original look as the layers slowly returned as well. Mist moved in reversal and transformed into massive icicles that merged to the ground across multiple spots on the battle stage. He is going to reverse the whole battle to a point where he was winning and prevent everything that happened from happening again. The system announced, "I can see that. I don't think he is aware that I am Conchio. Gustav Crimson. You're finished." Captain Strum's voice rang out from up ahead as he sped towards him. Regardless of whether you're conscious or not, the time reversal affects your body too, so you have to completely break out of this if you want to prevent the same events from playing out again. Just as the system finished saying this, Captain Strum appeared before Gustav and sent a punch at his face. Plaque, an illusionary representation of Gustav phased out of his body the moment the fist slammed into him, spiraling across the air as blood oozed out of his nose. The illusionary figure turned completely physical in the next moment, causing there to be two of Gustav existing in the same place. The first Gustav was still being affected by the reversal of time as his body obeyed the manipulation Strum had commanded. The other Gustav paused in place as it seemed to be outside of the time reversal effect, but was also incapable of moving a muscle. Bang, 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 bang. Captain Strum unleashed barrages of attack on the other Gustav, beating him to a pulp as he remained unable to fight back while time continued to flow in reverse. More problems. He plans to inflict damage on you, so when time finally reverses to the point of his satisfaction, you would have sustained a high amount of damage that will leave you incapacitated. Regeneration cannot work right now since time isn't flowing in order, so that should be impossible. Any damage he inflicts on me right now should also reverse. Gustav's body was in pain, but he battled to keep his mind active. Yeah, it should be impossible, but that is practically what he is doing. His ability to manipulate time is much more irregular than I expected, the system stated. At this point, Gustav Bones made loud cracking noises, and blood oozed out of his orifices while Captain Strum continuously landed heavy blows on him. I need to break out of this. There's only one way to achieve full immunity against Strum's manipulation of time. Chapter 1274. There's only one way to achieve full immunity against Strum's manipulation of time. It should be fine since everyone else is affected right now. Gustav knew exactly what the system was referring to. His main self closed his eyes and focused on the center of his being, tapping into the power that lay within Fly. Captain Strum dashed towards Gustav's figure in midair and was about to land another punch when his eyes suddenly emitted a bright glow. Tying a wave of unfathomable energy spread forth from Gustav's figure as his irises turned reddish pink and a cross-shaped golden glow appeared in his eyes. Srira, Gustav's second figure, pulled backwards suddenly and merged with his first, causing Captain Strum's punch to miss. Huh? How? Captain Strum's face lit up with an expression of confoundment as he swiftly spun around. He spotted Gustav's figure starting to glow up as an unknown amount of pressure descended upon the vicinity. The pinkish with a mixture of gold aura circulating Gustav's being sent forth a divine wave across the battlistage that made Captain Strum feel like he was in the presence of God. A feeling of complete submission welled up from within as he stared at Gustav with an expression of reverence. Every fiber of his being was wanted to bow down in the face of Gustav's wake. Pa! Captain Strum slapped himself as he noticed he was subconsciously succumbing to Gustav. Is he, could it be? Captain Strum couldn't believe his eyes as he watched Gustav free himself from the shackles of time reversal. Gustav raised his right arm, staring at his glowing figure with a straight face as he clenched his fist. I haven't activated cosmic superiority in full scale in a long time. Even without doing anything, it's already taking effect on the environment, Gustav said internally while raising his face to stare at Captain Strum up ahead. It doesn't matter. I won't let you defeat me. Captain Strum yelled and charged at Gustav in the next instant. Fuhush, Gustav peered at his incoming figure with an unbothered expression before making an utterance. Stop. Thry, his words rippled with absolute command and unfathomable power that immediately spread across the vicinity. Captain Strum's figure instantly paused in place with his multiple limbs outstretched. What in the world? He is truly a cosmic superior being. A cosmic superior being participating in ISOP. This must be a joke. My mind must be playing tricks on me. Captain Strum yelled internally as his body paused in place. Fall. Gustav's voice rang out again, and Captain Strum's figure descended from the air with speed. Faster. An unfathomable pressure descended upon Captain Strum's figure, causing him to fall faster. Bang! He slammed into the ground in the next instant, forming a new crater as his knees stamped to the cracked battle stage. Fwai! Gustav landed before him with an expression devoid of emotions as he stared directly into Captain Strum's eyes. That prideful look. Do you HNNGHH think you're better than me? Captain Strum struggled to speak as shot an hateful glare at Gustav. Since you can still speak, it means I'm being too lenient. Gustav was surprised that Captain Strum managed to even speak with his cosmic superior energy active, but he wasn't done. Down. His voice rang out authoritatively, causing Captain Strum's figure to push against the ground 10 times harder than before. HCHNNN. Captain Strum tried his best to fight the Presu while trying to regain control of his body, but the more he tried to define, the stronger the pressure became. Every fiber of his being defied his command, overriding his will and following that of Gustav's as his body descended even further. Bam! He fell face flat in the next instant, bowing completely before Gustav. Captain Strum had never felt so humiliated before his life as he tried to roar out in defiance, but even his voice chose not to obey his will at this point. Despite the fact that spectators couldn't witness this moment due to the current state of time, he still felt immensely humiliated. He never expected the battle would go this way. He didn't think he'd be fighting with a cosmic superior being. Step, 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 step. He could hear Gustav's footstep echoing as he made his way across the cracked, icy mirror-like ground. The moment the sound stopped, Captain Strum knew Gustav was right in front of him. In the next instant, his feeling of humiliation multiplied. Gustav raised his right foot and placed it on Captain Strum's head. Stomp! His foot buried Strum's head deeper into the ice as he placed his right elbow on his knee and remained in place, daunting a relaxing expression for a bit. Captain Strum couldn't even writhe in dissatisfaction since his body had completely succumbed to Gustav's will, but his mind was reeling in wrath. "I'll kill you, I swear, Gustav Crimson. I'll end you. I'll destroy you." No matter how much he yelled in his mind, Gustav left his foot resting on Captain Strum's head regardless. He knew how prideful Captain Strum was, and his major aim right now was to complete squash that pride. "Do you remember how you harmed my subordinate?" Gustav voiced, while twisting his leg to rub the sole of his boot on Captain Strum's head throughly. "I think you should take a look at Snovel. Siomacronym. Yeah, you caused major problems to someone I care about," Gustav voiced while continuing rubbing foot across Captain Strum's head. "This will teach you to watch who you mess with." Gustav proceeded to take his foot off. Captain Strum's pride was bruised, but he thought it was at least over now. "Turn over." Captain Strum's body flipped over with his face up and his back kissing the icy ground. Stomp. Gustav stomped his face in the next instant, rubbing the sole of his boot throughly on it. "I'll kill him if ITS the last thing I do. Captain Strum became even more infuriated as Gustav Foot abused his face repeatedly. Up, Captain Strum's body floated upwards a bit before Gustav. Speak. Gustav gave Strum free will over his speech. I will kill you. I will make you beg for mercy. I will gouge out your eyeballs and eat them. Captain Strum yelled out with a deep tone of fury and hatred. Pah! Gustav slapped his cheek, causing a loud sound of collision to ring out as Captain Strum's neck instantly twisted. Krryychhh. His head turned 180 degrees and blood flew out of his mouth. Arford! Captain Strum screamed in pain as his face became rooted to the back. This, of course, was not enough to kill him, but it inflicted an indescribable pain. Oh, you sorry, my bad. You were talking trash, so I had to slap it out of your mouth, Gustav voiced with a tone of pity while grabbing Captain Strum's head and twisting it back to place. I'll kill you. If it's the last thing I do, I don't care about Aesop anymore. You're dead. You're dead. You're D.A. Pa. Krryychhh. Another loud slap reverberated across the vicinity, accompanied with the sound of bone cracking as Captain Strum's neck twisted once more. Gerhard. My bad. I should have let you finish speaking first. Gustav twisted Captain Strum's neck back to its original angle. Error. Captain Strum's face was plagued with an expression of pain and hate as he began screaming profanities again. Pa. Krryychhh. Aga. Pa. Krryychhh. Roalfen dialfes nu omicron v epsilon L. Kmpa. Krryychhh. Ger. The same scenario played out repeatedly with Captain Strum being on the receiving end of Gustav's brutal assault. Eventually, Captain Strum's voice turned hoarse from screaming, and he lost the will to threaten Gustav. His expression soon turned from unwillingness to tiredness as his voice started to lack the liveliness it had at the start. Captain Strum's encore was incapacitated at the far end of the battle stage barrier. Gustav hadn't inflicted any damage on it in a while, but he guessed it was incapacitated due to the scale at which Captain Strum was manipulating time. Time was still being reversed even at this point, and Gustav could tell that this would continue to be the case until Captain Strum stopped it, ran out of energy, or passed out. All right, it's about time we ended the charade, Gustav voiced as he let go of the Draken, who was no longer voicing out profanities. Up. Fwyi bang. Down. Fwyi's bang. Left. Fwyi's bang. Right. Fwyi's bang. Captain Strum's figure catapulted across the entire battle stage at fast pace, slamming into different areas as he continuously ricocheted off the ground and the icy structures in midair. Gustav's command was absolute and couldn't be battled against. It was like whatever he voiced would become. Reality. Blast! Boom! A loud explosion rang out, sending Captain Strum flying as his figure immediately became scalded. Blast! Boom! Another explosion rang out, sending Captain Strum shooting forward this time. Gustav floated in the direction Strum's figure was headed, and in the next instant, he sent forth a fist. Bang! His fist slammed into Captain Strum's abdominal region, causing the Draken to spit out a jet of blood as his body caved in. Chapter 1275. 100% confirmed. Captain Strum felt like he was hit by a moving orbital body as two of his arms uprooted from his body after receiving the fist from Gustav. Blood jetted out like a fountain as he slammed into the far end of the barrier, breaking straight through all the layers and continuously shooting out into space. FYI, Gustav figure vanished, and he reappeared in space hundreds of feet before Captain Strum's body, which was still shooting forward. He gathered energy in his right arm as he arched it backwards, while clenching his fist tightly. His fist was coated in a golden and pinkish glow as he drove it forward at Captain Strum's approaching body. Boom! Space parted as Gustav's fist sent ripples across the endless expanse of darkness the moment it collided with Captain Strum. Bang! 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 Stars in the distance got snuffed out from the destructive wave of energy that spread forth from Gustav's fist as Captain Strum shot downwards like a dying star. Through his body shot across the solar system as it descended towards the ninth disk, all of his limbs uprooted from his body as he fell unconscious even before he hit the battle stage. Boom. The battle stage got blasted to smithereens the moment Captain Strum came into contact with it, sending another wave of destructive ripples across the vicinity. Fly. Gustav reappeared in the stage at this moment as time came to a standstill again. He deactivated cosmic superiority at this point to make sure it wouldn't be active when time went back to normal. The glow emitted from Encore slowly whit-led as its figure began to disintegrate. Time stopped reversing, and everything that seemed to be in an illusionary state started solidifying. Strum had reversed time to the point where he just activated the full power of his Encore and was tossing Gustav around like a dirtbee. S time went back to normal functionality. The scene that the spectators would be witnessing was Gustav getting beat up. However, the moment time resumed, the entire stage suddenly appeared destroyed, and the scene the spectators were initially witnessing glitched. Like a video game playback, the spectators were completely astonished as they stared at the disgraded stage. One unconscious figure was completely laid on the ground with missing limbs, while another was standing before the unconscious one with an unbothered expression. What the hell just happened? Captain Crimson was taking a beating, and all of a sudden, Captain Strum is defeated. He looks bloodied and battered too. His Encore is gone too? This doesn't make any sense. How did this happen? The spectators were in an utter state of confusion, not recalling the events that played out after this point of the battle. Only a few spectators like the Council Lords and Miss stared at the stage with looks of understanding, but they still remained astonished. The kid has truly grown more powerful than I realized. Miss Amy muttered. Young Miss, I sense time manipulation on a higher scale. What did we miss? Grand Commander questioned from the side. You didn't see it? Miss Amy asked with a slightly surprised tone. Grand Commander Cheyenne was an alpha, so she had expected that even if he couldn't be completely immune to time-related abilities, he would at least be able to perceive the events ongoing during time manipulation and have memories of the original timeline. I can only faintly sense that time has been altered on a large scale, but I have no recollection of how things exactly went. Grand Commander Cheyenne responded. Maybe this is a good thing. They will remain unaware that Gustav is a cosmic superior being. Miss Amy was still surprised that someone as young as Strum was able to pull this off with an alpha lacking memories of the original timeline, but she decided to use this to Gustav's advantage. She proceeded to narrate to Grand Commander Cheyenne the events that played out while skipping the mention of Gustav's use of cosmic superiority. She didn't give him any explanation as to how Gustav was immune to time manipulation, which made the Grand Commander even more confused. But Miss Amy would rather leave him in confusion than let the Earth be aware of Gustav's cosmic superiority until the kid was ready to reveal it himself. Strum lost? But how? The Earth's captain seems to have broken out of his time manipulation. But how is this even possible? The Draconid spectators area was in shambles as Welv Bronze medially clenched her fist so tightly a popping sound rang out. Even after everything he still lost, she voiced with a chilly tone. That kid, the Earth's captain, he is a cosmic superior being. Anyone would have lost. The other's prestigious-looking fellow beside Bronze medially voiced out. Why did you stop me from interfering? No one would have noticed if I did. She turned to stare at the Draken beside her with a look of anguish. It was a battle between the two youngsters. Oldies like us are not meant to interfere. It would be a disgrace to our great planet if we were to interfere in such matters. The Draken voiced with a dismissive tone. Also, we are not the only ones who are aware of what went down. Another male Draken voiced from the side. While staring in the direction of Earth's spectators area, Bronze medially gnashed her teeth while peering forward with a look of hatred. How dare that Earthling do this to my son? Gustav Crimson, planet Earth. Wins, 1,200 points attained amidst the confused gazes of the millions of spectators. Gustav exited the stage and walked towards the Earth's participants area. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad Captain Crimson won, but what the fuck just happened? Beats me. I don't understand a thing. Even the Earth's spectators area was full of confused people. Gustav's fellow team members were not left out of this confusion. Wow, what did you do, Gus? E questioned the moment Gustav arrived before them. Long story. You all just can't remember because of strum time-related abilities. Gustav heaved a sigh of fatigue as he took a seat. He had expended a lot of energy to win that battle, and almost depleted his Yarki in the process. Yarki would have been long depleted if it wasn't mixed with the other ability Gustav unlocked after becoming a parallel being. Good job, big brother, Endrick voiced from the side. You saw it? Gustav questioned, but instantly arrived at the answer before Endrick responded. Time candidate perks? Gustav voiced. Endrick's mouth hung loosely for a bit before he answered. Yes. Oh? Endrick knows what happened. Endrick tell us we're confused. Spit it out, man. The group quickly clustered around Endrick, who eventually decided to give them a brief analysis of what happened while leaving a lot of parts out. The versus battle challenge continued while the spectators still couldn't get Gustav and Strum's battle out of their heads and kept trying to find answers as to what happened. Big brother, I noticed something. Endrick approached Gustav. What is it? Gustav questioned. They witnessed it too. Endrick answered. By they, do you mean? Gustav glanced at Endrick with an expression of concern. Endrick nodded in response despite the fact that Gustav didn't complete his question. They're not supposed to be able to. This might be a problem. Gustav caressed his chin with a contemplative expression as he muttered, Did you uncover anything about them last night? Gustav asked. Not yet. I'm still looking. Endrick stuttered a little before responding. You figured something out, didn't you? Gustav's tone instantly turned suspicious. I really am still looking into it. I have pieced what I saw together yet. And no, you can't help me do that. I have to confirm if I'm looking in the right direction first, so I don't mince information. Endrick answered with a sincere tone. All right, do let me know when you figured it out. Gustav stated while turning to stare in the direction of Indulus Prime participants. Indulus Prime participants stood together in place with their pitch-black eyes on display, as usual. Their expression remained unknown due to the wraps of bandage-like clothing covering the entirety of their figures. 100% confirmed. One of them voiced out, It was just as I suspected, Captain Iron voiced with a tone of anticipation. We have finally uncovered the outworldly. While they exchanged a few words over there, Endrick stood in place with a disturbed expression on his face as his forehead glowed with green light. You told me everything was okay? How could this be? Endrick yelled internally. No, I told you that going on that mission would increase the chances of averting great calamity in his future, which was correct. Husarius answered. Then what the hell did I see last night? Endrick asked. A better future compared to how things would have gone if you didn't act at all. Husarius replied, You are crazy. You are crazy if you think I am going to let that happen. Chapter 1276. It's not up for voting's a better future compared to how things would have turned out if you didn't act at all. Husarius replied, You are crazy. You are crazy if you think I am going to let that happen. Endrick's face scrunched up in annoyance as he engaged Husarius. There's really nothing you can do about it, Husarius reiterated. I won't sit by and let it happen, Endrick stated. If you interfere any more than you already have, things will spiral out of control and everything will turn out much worse. In this case, he only loses 2, but if you try anything, he'll lose way more, Husarius answered with a dismayed tone. Are you telling me I caused the demise of over 3 million people for nothing? Endrick gritted his teeth. It isn't for nothing. You achieved the best possible result. Husarius answered internally with a dismissive tone. Darn you! You didn't tell me this was how things were going to end up. The day was finally coming to an end, as the last batch for the day seemed to be ongoing. The highlights of today's battle challenge happened to be Gustav and Captain Strum's fight, along with Offioner and Captain Illumo of planet Zionzi. Planet Zionzi was above planet Ruz on the rankings, yet Offioner won the battle against their captain by achieving a new level of enlightenment during the battle. While their battle wasn't on the level of destructiveness and power of Gustav and Strum, it had been very hyped due to how Offioner broke through and became very powerful. Participants began to compare her strength to that of the other captains after her win. Currently, Abestos was in one of the stages battling against a Planet Ozius participant. Their battle was one of the fights that was most focused on, but at the moment Abestos didn't seem to be doing so good. The redirection of energy from Abestos' attack did nothing to help him against his opponent. He could barely successfully connect an attack unless he took his opponent by surprise. On other cases, his attacks was acquired and imprinted upon by the Planet Ozius participant, which he would in turn manipulate according to his desires. Eventually, Gorn Doritus wins Planet Ozius. 1,000 points attained. Gustav had him challenge this Planet Ozius member to analyze some things, so they didn't really mind about winning or losing. So long as you hit them so fast that they're unable to notice the attack prior, they won't be able to imprint on its energy. Speed is the key. But for those who don't have the required speed, you'll have to use your wits and take them by surprise. Pull them into a trap or a state where they are unable to counter the attack, Gustav advised his teammates after Abestos returned dejected from the stage. Gustav knew they wouldn't be meeting Planet Ozius in a versus battle anymore, but just in case of the future, if they met during another challenge and had to battle it out, his teammates would know what to do. Few minutes later, all the battles for today had come to an end, and it was finally time for Handler 1 to address the public. Once more, the arena turned quiet as an air of tension permeated the vicinity. As mentioned yesterday, the disqualification period has arrived. As Handler 1 began speaking, the ISOP ranking appeared on the screens, also displaying the number of points planets had acquired so far. Planet Earth, 90,501 points. Planet Draconet, 82,900 points. Planet Ozus, 75,400 points. Planet Indulus Prime, 74,000 points. Planet Oxlok, 71,700 points. Planet Triptez, 71,200 points. Planet Diov, 70,000 points. Planet Hixto, 69,500 points. Planet Osiris, 68,400 points. Planet Zillion, 62,000 points. Planet Claxosape, 61,600 points. Planet Orion, 60,100 points. Planet Gundabalt, 58,000 points. The spectators took note of the planets at the last three places. Planet Fixik, 21,300 points. Planet Bequis, 20,600 points. Planet Oerton, 20,100 points. No planet had acquired below 20,000 points, even though they were 531st, 532nd, and 533rd, respectively. This made everyone curious as to whether they'd reached the requirements or not. Last time the number of points needed was 15,000, and now everyone was way higher than that. However, it wouldn't make sense for any planet to not get disqualified. The top 200 planets have successfully made it through the battle challenge and will be participating in the next major challenge, Handler 1 announced. Yah! Cheers! Cheers! Loud cheers rang out upon this announcement due to a lot of planets celebrating being amongst the top 200. However, the dread seemed to be higher since over 300 planets were below the top 200. I thought there was going to be a number of required points. I thought so too. This sucks for a lot of planets. Planet Ruz is at number 232. I guess we won't be seeing more of Offioner then. A lot of spectators didn't understand why this method of disqualification was used instead of the usual. Tomorrow is the last day of the battle challenge, but the top 200 planets will not be participating because they have qualified to move on to the next challenge. Handler 1 continued speaking. This statement caused a lot of them to beam up in confusion. If the top 200 planets won't be participating, then which planets will be? This was the question in the minds of many of them. Handler 1 went on to explain that the planets that were 200 and one on the rankings down to 300 would be the ones participating in tomorrow's battle challenge. Planets below 300 were automatically disqualified. Zing, 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 zing. Participants from planets below 300 in the rankings started getting teleported away from the battle arena. Those who had acquired over 10,000 points higher than the last number of points required to progress had their hopes dashed. No one had expected that the disqualification would go this way. Nevertheless, a lot of planets were glad that they ranked in the top 200s. As for the planets who would still have battles tomorrow, Handler 1 mentioned that only 50 more planets would be given the chance to progress afterwards. This would mean that another half of the planets had been disqualified at the end of the battle challenge. 50 versus 50 should be quite the interesting sight, Eldris voiced from the side. Doesn't this mean we have a day off tomorrow? E voiced with a playful expression. That's true. We could just come as spectators, or we could go on exploration on the other discs. We've not managed to enjoy our stay here, Timmy added from the side. I'm going to let Falco join us for the next major challenge, Gustav announced. He can join us for the exploration too to ease his mind off things. Let's just have fun for a bit. He wrapped his arm around Gustav's neck as he agreed with Timmy's suggestion. What about Yahiko? Yonda questioned. What about her? Gustav voiced dismissively. What do you mean, what about her? You can't just shove her off the main team, Yonda stated. She is just a substitute and has served her purpose as that, Gustav responded. I vote that she remains on the main team. I don't want some unstable dude having my back, Yonda voiced with a strong tone. Almost everyone stared at him with an expression of frustration as they heard this. It's not up for voting, Gustav voiced while turning around. At this point, Handler 1 had finished briefing the entire audience about the next set of events, and the spectators began trooping out. You can't put our fate in the hands of someone unstable. Yahiko is strong enough to be on the main team, Yonda continued going off. Yonda don't. Even Yahiko tried to stop him, but he cut her off. You deserve this spot more than that Falco guy, he said with a smile. Stop wasting your time. She won't give you a shot regardless of your charade, Gustav stated casually as he continued stepping forward. What? How? You? Yonda's face displayed an expression of humiliation and anger as he subconsciously lunged forward. Ha! What am I? He realized his error too late, as his fist was already headed for the back of Gustav's head. FYI, Gustav fluidly moved his neck sideways, causing Yonda's fist to whiz past his face as he turned while stretching his hand out. All Yonda saw was a giant palm cover his entire face, and next thing he knew, his entire body descended with speed. Bang! The back of his head slammed into the ground along with his entire body as Gustav held him in place effortlessly. Chatter, chatter, chatter. Aren't they supposed to be teammates? Dash, why are they fighting? Dash, looks like the Earth is not as united as we thought. Participants from other planets in the vicinity chattered amongst themselves as they witnessed this scene. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1277. A handler was killed? I couldn't even touch him. Although Yonda felt regretful about his actions, he couldn't deny the sting of humiliation he felt now, which was higher than any physical pain this clash caused him. Who is the unstable one now? Gustav voiced as he let go of Yonda's face. He hadn't used much force, so he knew he didn't injure Yonda. TSK short people are always short-tempered, He shook his head in pity. You shouldn't do that, Yonda, Fildhor voiced from the side. You're going to make us look bad now, Angie added. They all berated Yonda, and Gustav began walking away again. I'd rather have that so-called unstable guy watch my back than you. Gustav's voice trailed off as he left. Yuhiko, Fildhor, and Shirama were the only ones who stayed behind to help Yonda up. Don't worry about it, Yonda Cohen. I'm glad I was able to help, Yuhiko said with a bright smile plastered across her face after helping him up. That bastard. I don't like him, Yonda said with a tone of anguish. While Gustav was leaving the arena with the others, Miss Amy had approached him for a talk, and they moved to a secluded area to discuss. Something happened with the handlers, Miss Amy voiced. I did notice something was off. At the start of the battle challenge, Gustav responded with an intrigued expression. So what happened? Gustav asked. One of them was murdered on the 7th disc. Handler 302, Miss Amy revealed. That's quite serious. Gustav's facial expression turned surprised as he heard this. It wasn't that crime never occurred on planet Ozius, but it happened to be very rare. Compared to Earth, where mixed bloods criminals were a handful, planet Ozius happened to be quite tame. Murder was something Gustav was aware hadn't happened here in a long time, so it was quite the grave occurrence. Did they catch the culprit? Gustav inquired. No. Whoever did it already fled long before the corpse was found, Miss Amy responded. They are conducting investigations now, and since this person killed an handler, they cannot be weak. We don't know if participants are going to be targeted next, so we need you all to be careful, Grand Commander Cheyenne voiced from the side. I think we can handle ourselves, Gustav responded with a dismissive tone. A token has been prepared just in case of emergencies. It will send out a signal if something happens. Please pass this to the rest of your teammates, Grand Commander Cheyenne stated while a couple of black square-shaped cubes the size of buttons appeared in midair. Zing, 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 zing. They were around 46 in number, making up for the substitutes as well. Gustav received them and placed them in his storage device. His teammates might want to go out alone, so it would be nice to have a token on them, just in case. Miss Amy, do you know who did it? Gustav questioned with a slightly suspicious tone. I understand why you'd think that, but you should be well aware now that I wouldn't bother myself with the affairs of this planet. Crime is normal everywhere. So despite my senses being able to cover the entirety of the 9 discs, I pay no attention to a lot of ongoing issues since I have no intention of butting in, Miss Amy answered. This meant that even if her senses had picked on the death, she didn't register it because if Miss Amy had to concern herself with every issue on this planet, she'd have to be everywhere, and she wasn't here to clean up the mess of an entire planet. Only information I gave them was that I sensed dark signatures in the location of the crime. Miss Amy added, Dark signatures? So the homicide was committed by more than one person? Gustav questioned. Could be, but it's none of our business unless they come for one of our own. Let the Ozus handle it themselves. Miss Amy waved her hand dismissively. We have to equip ourselves with enough information or we won't be able to prevent it from happening to one of our own if they do come for us, Gustav responded with a logical tone. I guess you're right. Miss Amy wasn't really thinking about it from this point of view, since Gustav and his friends were the only people she really cared about. They proceeded to discuss more about the issue for 30 minutes more, before Gustav left to head back to the accommodation area. The moment he arrived, he gathered everyone together to tell them about the information he got from Miss Amy. A handler was killed? How is that even possible? Teamy questioned with a shocked expression. Weren't they said to be the strongest Ozists? Rhea voiced as well. That is why it is assumed that whoever the culprit is cannot be someone weak, that is, if it wasn't done by a party, Gustav responded while tapping on his storage device. Zing, 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 zing. The token's Grand Commander Cheyenne passed to him earlier appeared with a flash of blue light, and Gustav proceeded to grab them. Grand Commander Cheyenne tasked me with passing these on to the group, Gustav voiced while handing them out. At this moment, Falco walked in from his room with bags under his eyes. Yo, Falco, you good? He was the first to ask. What's going on? Falco questioned as he rubbed his eyes. A handler was killed, Eldris revealed. Falco paused briefly upon hearing that as his face showed a disturbed expression. Oh, how did that happen? He questioned. We don't really know, but we were given these emergency tokens that would alert the higher-ups present if any of us were in danger, Gustav answered while passing a token to Falco as well. Falco reached out with his arm trembling a little and accepted the token from Gustav. Are you good? Gustav asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Falco tried to wear a smile as he replied. I was thinking of letting you participate in the next major challenge, but if you're not up for it, I can. Before Gustav completed his sentence, Falco chimed in. No, he shook his head. You're not up for it? Gustav questioned. I don't feel so great. I'll rest it out for a bit. You can use a substitute, he responded while turning around to leave. Thank you for dealing with Strum for me. Everyone had worrisome looks as they stared at each other while Falco walked away. By the way, did they discover who did it? Falco inquired. No, the culprit hasn't been identified or caught. Gustav shook his head. Bummer. You guys be safe out there, Falco voiced as he walked into his room and the door behind him closed. You see, you should have left Yuhiko in. I said it. That dude isn't stable. Yonda began yelling the moment Falco was gone. Everyone ignored him, but internally they felt he had a point. Gustav had made a conscious effort to try and place Falco back in, but now Falco didn't want in. He's unstable. I said it. Yuhiko is the best replacement. Yonda kept yelling. Cut him some slack. If you had gone through what he did at the hands of Strum, you probably wouldn't be alive right now. Matilda had enough of his yapping and voiced out. Yonda ignored her and kept yelling while Gustav proceeded to head to his room as well. Angie was about following him, but figured that he probably needed some time alone to think. They'll check on Falco in the meantime, she decided and walked towards Falco's room. Dark signatures. You think it's them? The system questioned internally. Everything points to them, but at the same time, motive is very important. What would prompt them to make such a sloppy move when they've hidden in plain sight so far? Gustav voiced with a tone of confoundment. Well, it might not be so sloppy since they haven't been identified as the culprits. Still, it causes the entire populace on planet Ozius to be on alert, and now there's investigation from different sides, which is bound to yield some kind of result sooner or later. Gustav held his chin as he voiced out. So, you think someone else might be responsible? The system was starting to understand what Gustav was driving at. Who else do we know that uses dark energy? Gustav hinted. You really can't be serious. The system sounded surprised as it realized who Gustav was referring to. He was acting weird. Did they discover who did it? He tried to hide the anxiety in his tone when he asked that. Gustav pointed out. Amy mentioned multiple dark signatures, so it had to be more than one person. The system recalled. Falco is more than one person. Gustav stated. How do we know that Darko has returned? Also, he shouldn't be powerful enough to defeat, much more kill a handler. Like you also said, motive. What would be his? Follow current novels on topnovelfool.com. Chapter 1278. How do we know that Darko has returned? Also, he shouldn't be powerful enough to defeat, much more kill a handler. Like you also said, motive. What would be his? The system raised valid points one after the other, which Gustav had to admit were making sense. You're right. It could either be Indulus Prime or Falco. Either way, I'm not ruling out any of them as suspects. I have a feeling Falco knows something even if he might not be directly involved, Gustav voiced with a contemplative tone. He wanted to approach Falco, but he didn't know the best possible way to do that at the moment. He needed more information. Gustav found this case to be very sensitive compared to anyone else because it might involve Indulus Prime, who he had been investigating, or Falco, who happened to be someone he cared about. Either ways, this wasn't something he could just let the Ozus take care of themselves. If it involved Falco, he definitely needed to find out before anyone else did, so he could come up with the best way of rendering support. Gustav realized that despite their technological advanced civilization, the Ozus were unable to get footage of the incident, and didn't discover it till hours after it happened. This was obviously due to the power of whatever supernatural creature was responsible, which meant there were definitely powerful. System, how long has it been since Handler 302 met her demise? Gustav questioned. A little over a day now, the system replied. Then we still have time. Gustav stated. You want me to extract its last memory before death, like I did for Danzo? The system immediately realized what Gustav was up to. Precisely. This is the best way to figure out the culprit. So long as the brain of the corpse is still intact, there should be no problem with this, right? Gustav questioned with a tone of confirmation. Yes, but how are you going to get to the corpse? Not to mention, you also need to make contact with the head without interruption for 15 minutes to make sure I successfully extract the last memories. The system pointed out. It'll have to infiltrate wherever the corpse is kept then. It's time to make a little research, Gustav said while getting up. SHHSSHHH, as he arrived before his room door. It slid open, and Gustav spotted Angie up ahead approaching. Angie, Gustav mumbled. What are we going to do about Falco's situation? The moment she arrived before him, she asked, give him some time. If he is still unwilling to participate in the next major challenge, he'll have to pick a substitute again, Gustav answered. I think he should come exploring with us tomorrow to help him get his mind off things, Angie suggested. Is he going to be up for that? Gustav asked. Since it's for fun and not battle, of course he will, Angie responded with an affirmative tone. All right then, we'll talk about it tomorrow, Gustav said while stepping forward to head out. Tomorrow? Where are you going? Angie eyebrows furrowed as she turned around. I gotta head out. I might not get back till tomorrow morning, Gustav answered as he closed in on the entrance. Sorry, he'll tell you about it later, Gustav waved without turning around before disappearing out the door. Endrik was at the side watching all this time. He stood up and began heading to his room. When Angie stopped him, do you know what is going on with him? Yes and no. I only have a little knowledge on some areas, but I don't know a lot, Endrik answered. Angie's mouth parted to respond, but before she could, Endrik interrupted her. No, I can't tell you about it, unless he decides to reveal it himself, Endrik said with an apologetic expression before turning around to head into his room. Angie's mouth remained hung open for some time before she finally pursed her lips with an expression of dissatisfaction. So secretive Humph, no wonder they're brothers. The night went by very quickly, and the next day arrived. Gustav was currently making his way back to the accommodation area with a plan hatching in his mind. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Gustav could see everyone lazing around as he walked in. Some were just waking, while some didn't sleep for the entire night. Some were channeling their bloodline, and some excitedly chatted with others. They greeted Guadav, and some exchanged a little dialogue with him as he made his way in to freshen up. Today was a free day for every top 200 planet participant on the ranking. The disqualification round for the planets in the top 300 had began, but they could decide whether they wanted to spectate them or spend their day differently. The Earth participants, on the other hand, had decided they would use this day to have a little fun. It was obvious that they would still have 1 or 2 free days after this, since the next major challenge would still take some time before decided upon. Gustav had changed out of his white and blue battlesuit. As he walked out of his room, he was clad in a red trench jacket and black pants which had the MBO insignia on it. So, who has suggestions for interesting exploration locations? Aeldris asked as everyone gathered in the main room. I heard Canaan Falls is a good place for exploration for tourists. I heard about that one too. I'll definitely like to try the beast riding. What about the Cirro Golden Waterfalls? I heard it's the longest in existence. The Kabuto Caves seem like a good exploration option. About 7 of them gave different or the same exploration options, which Eldris took note of. Do you have anyone in mind? Eldris asked Gustav from the side. Not really, but the Zero Haven Endrick mentioned sounds pretty good to me, Gustav answered. Let's vote for the locations we want. The location that gets the highest vote is where we'll head to, Timi suggested. After the suggestion, the others who didn't mention an exploration area went on to pick from the locations that had been listed. At the end, Zero Haven got the highest picks. Endrick had suggested Zero Haven because some of the fun activities they could engage in for the others were present here, as well with other interesting perks. Gustav caused a kind of domino effect since Angie, Timi, Eldris, and some others decided to go along with his decision. So we're headed to the 7th disc then, Eldris announced. Everyone had looks of excitement as they watched a holographic display of Zero Haven, which was equivalent to a resort on Earth. It was located on a part of the 7th disc, which was secluded from residential areas. It was erected close to the edge of the disc, so the gravitational laws there was weird. There was a waterfall that extended from it to the 8th disc below. This waterfall followed a ring-like path and was mostly used for racing. Besides that, there were lots of sights to be seen there and fun activities like beast racing, glide dancing, exotic supernatural beast zoo, and so many other things, while everyone else was ready to go and have fun due to the many activities one could engage in. Gustav had ulterior motives for picking this location. This place happened to be located on the 7th disc. He had business on the 7th disc. Last night when Gustav was out, he spent the entire night on the 7th disc. He had revisited the location where the homicide occurred and from there visited where the corpse was taken. It turned out that the corpse was still on the 7th disc. Gustav had spent the night discovering the location, understanding its intricacies, shifts, and taking note of to properly infiltrate the synaxes, which had the same function as a mortuary on Earth. He now had all the information he needed and would be infiltrating the synaxes to extract Handler 302 last memories. The exploration was just a way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone for him. Falco, are you ready to go? Inquired. Yeah. After Angie's persuasion, Falco agreed to come with them. Within an accommodation area, a large 10 feet tall being with multiple limbs and blue star-shaped patterns all over his body opened his eyes. How long was I out? He questioned. It's been a day, former captain, one of the people gathered around him voiced. Former captain? What do you mean, Yuta? Strum questioned with a condescending look as he tried to sit up from his lying position. The Middleys have decided that you are no longer fit to captain us. Captain Austral has taken over. Yuta responded while turning to stare at the 9-foot-tall female by the side with pinkish star-shaped marks all over her body. Chapter 1279. The Middleys have decided that you are no longer fit to captain us. Captain Austral has taken over. Yuta responded while turning to stare at the 9-foot-tall female by the side with pinkish star-shaped marks all over her body. Ha 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 ha, surely you jest. You must be trying to cheer me up, Yuta, but this is quite the expensive joke. Strum tried his best to seat up, but his entire body ached so badly. He whined in pain and stopped trying. Everyone stared at him with serious expressions which caused his face to slowly turn from you to shaped. The Mycels must have lost their minds. He yelled out after realizing Yuta was serious. I am the only one who is fit to be captain. Austral isn't as powerful. He gritted his teeth as he forcefully pushed himself up. Mother would never allow this. Enough. Austral cut him short. You have lost your light, she added. What do you mean? It's still, Strum's face suddenly froze as he sensed something missing within. You're now the weakest amongst us all. When you get your light back, you can come for the title of captain, but till then, I am Captain, Austral voiced with a confident tone. This cannot be. Strum had a look of disbelief as he muttered, No, no, no. How? I will succeed where you have failed and find a way to deal with the oppositions that block our path to victory like Captain Crimson. Captain Austral turned around at this point, and everyone else followed after her, leaving Strum in his state of despair. We're here, Angie voiced with a tone of excitement. Wow, it's massive. It's beautiful too, the group exclaimed with looks of interest as they spotted the massive pyramid-shaped structures in the distance. These pyramid-shaped structures were stacked upon one another, and each of them was as large as a skyscraper. Fog could be spotted the further downwards it extended, so it was difficult to tell just how long it was. There was no other structure in sight beside this, and a golden waterfall that circulated around the entirety of the structure extended as far down as the eyes could see. People would occasionally be spotted sliding down the waterfall rings, and they wouldn't fall out despite no solid structure erected around the waterfall. The group was currently standing on silver saucers, which were usually the mode of transportation around here. These saucers flew them in the direction of the stacked pyramid-like structures without them having to worry about how to get there, since there was no land around here. This, of course, was the Zero Haven on the 7th disc, and the entire group had come here with the purpose of having fun today. They approached the entry point of the Zero Haven and were accosted by a bunch of Ozas who worked there. Welcome, esteemed customers, one of them voiced while handing them a coin-sized item. This token consists of our services on Zero Haven, but it can also serve as an access token. One of them, who was dressed in a white robes, began to explain. She went on to mention that the access tokens can be recharged with something called a Zeto, and every access token had 0 Zetos upon entry. To access each of the services available on Zero Haven, they would need to have specific amount of Zetos in their access token. Oh, guys, I think we should try this one first. Ria's voice was laced with excitement as he tapped the coin-sized token, which displayed an holographic footage, different activities they could engage in. That's the beast riding thing I was talking about, one of them voiced. Esteemed customers, if you would like to engage in that activity, first you would need to head to the 2nd level. It costs 10 Zetos per person, one of them explained with a smile. After the group learned how to recharge Zetos and other information about the Zero Haven they moved in, they made Gustav pay for the recharge, and he didn't actually mind. Gustav sometimes forgot that he was rich. As they moved around the interior of the place, it was crowded with loads of people ranging from Ozas to other extraterrestrial species. It would seem Zero Haven was quite the tourist attraction. Those are Earth participants. Oh my goodness, is that Endrick? I spot Eldris, he's so beautiful. That is the famed Captain Crimson. I should take a picture. I think you should take a look at Snovel. Siamacron M. The fastest ISOP participant Angie is also there. The group garnered attention to themselves as they made their way to the 2nd level. The Zero Haven had 5 levels, which was equivalent to 5 stack of pyramid-shaped structures. The 2nd level was where they were told they could beast ride, and they were currently on the 1st. They had spotted other activities they could engage in, like the saucer race, domino incision, exotic beast sightings, and so many others. They soon arrived on the 2nd level and immediately moved towards the west, which happened to be a slightly closed-off area with another entry point. The moment they went through the passageway at the entry point, they arrived at an open space that looked like they were outside. There was a sky, mountains, greenery, ice, rocks, and everything that could be witnessed in nature all around. Kuroff, different species of beasts could be spotted diving across the blue sky. Some of them stirred winds as they made a show of gliding across the air elegantly. How does Ozius always manage to gather creatures from across galaxies? He questioned with an astonished expression. That's because we have the known as the Ravishers, a loud voice answered from up ahead. Everyone stared in the direction of the voice and spotted a figure in front of a group headed towards them. Captain Vilax, Teamy stated, as everyone recognized the person in front. He was clad in flowing golden robes, and antennas flickered body in excitement as he approached them. His eyes, which were positioned on both antennas, darted around just like the others behind him. What a pleasant surprise to meet ISOP No. 1 group here, Captain Vilax voiced as he arrived before them. It turned out that the entire Ozius participants were here as well. Greetings, Captain Crimson. I don't think we've formally been introduced. Captain Vilax arrived before Gustav and extended his insect-like hands. I don't think we have. Gustav reached out and shook Captain Vilax's hand while the rest of the teammates from both sides respectfully exchanged greetings as well. You mentioned something about some Ravishers, he voiced from the side. Oh, yes, the Ravishers are a group from our esteemed planet, specifically tasked with saving rare species across the galaxies and dying planets, and bringing them here to a place where they can survive, live freely without issues, Captain Vilax explained. The Earth participants had expressions of astonishment as they heard that. Why doesn't Earth have one of those? Angie wondered out loud. Space. Planet Ozius is many times larger than Earth. Gustav answered the question. You are indeed right, although our planet wasn't always this large. The ancient ones constructed more disks to accommodate a larger number, Captain Vilax voiced. Anyways, enough about that. Are you lots here to ride beasts? Captain Vilax questioned. Yeah, we thought we'd have a little fun to relax, Eldris responded. That is great. Let us help you attract the beasts you wish to ride, Captain Vilax voiced, while the others behind nodded. We also come here because beast riding helps ease the mind. There's something special about it, Vice Captain Ale chimed in from the side. That one looks beautiful. I want to ride it, Angie voiced, while pointing at one of the beasts in the sky. This one happened to have light blue pair of wings that spanned across 70 feet upon full spread. Its head was oblong-shaped with pretty blue and white markings all over, and it emitted a glow on its belly area while it flew around. That's the Parkley Glacial Furry. I could get it down, but you can only ride it if it accepts you. It rejects 99% of people who visit here. So everyone just avoids it, even though it's a pretty creature, Vice Captain Ale voiced while making hand signs with her insect fingers. She brought her fingers down to her face and blew a small breeze in between the holes. Why, a whistling sound rang out, and the glacial furry dove down in the next instant. Bam! It landed before them, and Vice Captain Ale gestured at Angie to move closer to it. Angie did as intended, but the creature seemed to be moving backwards. Oh, it's going to reject her, someone voiced from the side. Chapter 1280. Oh, it's going to reject her, someone voiced from the side. However, the moment Angie touched the head of the bird, it paused and stared into her eyes. A smile appeared on Angie's face as she rubbed the fur and ruffled the glowing feathers of the creature affectionately. Wow, it actually accepted her. This sight took the Ozius by surprise as Angie went on to mount the creature. In the next moment, it spread its wings and flapped intensely. Fwaiwiyai, they shot into the sky very quickly and began gliding across the air. The Ozius went on to help the others pick the beasts they wanted to ride on, and soon a lot of them were gliding across the air with their desired beasts. Wee-oh, Mama, look at me, I'm flying. EE's loud voice reverberated across the vicinity as he sat on the back of a green bird that looked like a mixture between eagle and bunny. Soon everyone except Falco was left. For reasons unknown, the beasts were scared of him and could never let him get even 10 feet close to them. How about you just ride with me, Falco? One of the Ozius suggested while mounting a creature. Are you sure it's not going to be a problem? Falco inquired. Falco hesitated, but decided to give in. The creature made low, frightened noises as Falco closed in, but the Ozus continued to rub it affectionately. Soon Falco was on its back as well, and it proceeded to lift into the air. Everyone could be seen after some time gliding across the sky with happy expressions. Even Falco slowly started to cheer up and displayed a look of excitement as the winds blew across his face while they dominated the sky. The decision to explore seemed to be a wise one as everyone piped down and enjoyed the activity. While on the beast that Gustav had chosen, he began hatching his plans. He'll head there in a few. You'd have to be quick, since they might notice you're gone after they're done with beast riding, the system stated. Yeah, it's good this place is large enough for me to give excuses if anything comes up. At this point, Gustav was about to steer his beast in the opposite direction. There were lots of people here, so his plan was to mix in and then descend somewhere farther without the others noticing. Captain Crimson, how about a friendly race? A loud voice rang out from behind, just as Gustav was about to put his plans into motion. Bad timing. Gustav turned to the side to stare at the person who had just suggested this. It happened to be Captain Vilax, who was standing on a gray pigeon-faced bird with a massive 30-feet body and 100-feet wingspan. It had spikes all over its back and belly area, but Captain Vilax unbotheredly stood there as it flew side by side with Gustav's beast. Gustav was about to turn the captain down when Ee approached from the east with a jolly expression. Did I hear a race? Imin hee. Me too. Yosh. Let's have it. Out of nowhere, Teemy and Fildhor arrived with their beasts as well. Gustav nearly sighed out loud as more and more of them arrived. Why now, of all times? Now, he couldn't get out of this unless he ditched them during the race. No use of abilities. First person to reach the 4th level and back wins, Captain Vilax stated. Oh, we're allowed to leave, go out of the building and back with the beasts? Gustav inquired. Of course, especially since you're with us, Vice Captain Ale responded from the left. Be careful not to cause any accidents, Captain Vilax cautioned with a nod while everyone prepared. Guinea, let's leave these guys in the dust. Moi. EES voice could be heard from the side as he hugged the body of the creature he was currently seated on and rubbed it affectionately. You already named it? They shook their heads and began laughing upon hearing EES exclamation. That's it. I'll ditch them during the race. Gustav decided as he placed his hands on the dark fur of the beast he was currently riding. Mental manipulation has been activated. Listen, I have a reward for you if you move faster than every one of them. I want the gap to be so wide they won't be able to sight you in the distance. Gustav transmitted the meaning behind his words as he spoke internally. The creature, of course, was unable to understand English, but mental manipulation did a good job of making it understand. And soon the creature was hyped, activating bloodline transfer. This will make things easier. Gustav placed his palm on the back of the creature's neck. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Siamacron M, bloodline compatibility, 67%. Transferring blue jet bloodline, Gustav didn't mind parting with a single bloodline since he still had over 30. In less than a minute, he had transferred this bloodline to the creature, who instantly began to feel its body swell with energy. Gustav had always wondered if he could transfer bloodlines to extraterrestrial beings, and now he had his answer. Go. Captain Vilax's voice rang out at this moment. The dark furried beast Gustav was riding on suddenly had blue glowing lines appeared on its vertebrae column area. The moment it flapped its wings, Gustav and itself streaked forward with immense speed, shocking the others. Woo! What the hell? Ee yelled from behind as Gustav and his creature pulled forward at incredible speed. Is the Solarkin supposed to be that fast? The Ozus were just as shocked as they patted their creatures to give chase. Swai-wee-eye, 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 swai-wee-eye. They all sped past multiple other people on beasts, causing furious winds to stir. Dash, hey, watch it. Teemy nearly hit another person on a beast as his dove passed, missing by only a few inches. "Sorry," he yelled loudly, but his voice was barely audible since they were flying at very fast speed. Gustav turned around and activated God Eyes. His vision zoomed into the distance, and he spotted the others trying to catch up. He turned back around in the next instant, as they approached an opening at the end of the second level. Fwai, his beast flew through the opening, and they arrived on the west side of the second pyramid-like structure. Each pyramid-like structure was up to 7,000 feet in length, and there happened to be 3 more to scale through after the second. The wind blew Gustav's hair upwards as his beast swooped down with immense speed, leaving a bluish arc across the air. "Good," he muttered as the distance between him and the others increased. The fog got denser as they further descended. This was due to the fact that they were starting to close in on the midpoint of the 7th disc, which was like a bridge between the 7th and 8th. By the time his beast reached the 4th level of Zero Haven, Gustav leapt off. "Here you go." He flung something in the direction of the beast the moment he jumped off. The beast caught it in between its giant mouth and made happy gurgling noises as it continued diving down based on Gustav's instruction. 3 dark wings sprouted out of Gustav's back in the next instant as he swerved to the right and sped forward. His figure parted the fog due to the incredible speed at which he was moving, but fortunately, he was making a turn around the 4th level. This was to make sure he didn't come into contact with any of them while ascending. In a couple of seconds, he had arrived back at the 1st level of Zero Haven. He floated hundreds of feet away from the pyramid-like structure while taking a button-shaped item from his storage device. He placed the item on his forehead and tapped its surface. In the next moment, he turned invisible, while in his state of invisibility. Shape-shifting has been activated. Time to go. He turned in a particular direction and flew off in the next instant. Within a dark vicinity completely void of light, a group of 20 wrapped with black bandage-like outfits from head to toe formed a circle. A pair of eyes formed from mist was situated in their midst. Despite the fact that no mouth was visible, sound still seemed to be traveling across the vicinity from the pair of eyes. "You have made confirmation?" "Yes, Prime G." He made use of cosmic superiority energy in his last battle, Captain Iron reported. Just that. He didn't use the other one." "No, but there is no doubt that it is him. The unique signature was identified. Captain Iron confirmed. Then the next phase of the plan can commence. Failure is not an option." "Yes, Prime G, but what do we do about the offsprings?" "The Lord is taking care of it himself. Do not engage the offspring." Chapter 12, 81 The Lord is taking care of it himself. Do not engage the offspring. Understood. Then we shall proceed with the plan. Gustav soon arrived before an upside-down, hut-shaped golden structure, which was around 2,000 feet tall. It had the words Gustav knew only medical practitioners were dressed this way on planet Ozus, as it was a crime to even consider using red if you weren't a practitioner. However, Gustav was currently dressed this way as he approached the building from up ahead. "Mizerkuri," 2 Ozus greeted him with respectful gazes as he walked into the structure. "Mizerkuri," Gustav replied with a nod as he walked past them. This place, which was like a reception area, was so tiny that it could only fit 3 people walking side by side. Only the higher floors were wider, since the building was like a massive funnel. Fortunately, only 2 other people seemed to be on this floor, so Gustav had no issue moving to where he needed to. The glass-like elevator area displayed the reflection of an Ozus as Gustav approached. The face that stared back at him was a circular brown, one almost twice the size of a human face. Only a line-shaped mouth was visible on the entire brownish circular face, along with 2 antennas positioned atop the head. At the tip of both antennas were eyeballs the size of a baby fist. Gustav proceeded to walk into and got beamed up a moment later. He arrived on one of the top floors, which had a couple more OSIS medical practitioners moving to and fro across the place. He proceeded down a passageway and arrived in a broad space a few moments later. This broad space had very dim lighting but was structured in such a way that steps were formed in a circular format while the center had very little space. These steps extended across a radius of more than 400 feet and got higher with every layer, so much that the last step had reached a height of 100 feet and was also structured in a circular format across the space. Rectangular-shaped, transparent encasements were lined on the circular steps, causing each step to have a couple of them hovering above them. Within these transparent, rectangular encasements were the corpses of OSIS in a preserved state. A lot of these corpses looked like they were in a state of sleep rather than snuffed of life. The small glow emitted from the internal walls of the rectangular encasement bathed the corpses in rays that made their skins as fresh as a live OSIS would look. From Gustav's perception, he could tell that there were more than 1,000 of these rectangular encasements here. Not like he wasn't aware, since he already gathered information last night. He turned to stare at the southwest area of the space and began stepping forward. He moved between the spaces of the rectangular encasements as he headed in the direction of the 74th step. Gustav knew exactly where to check for the corpse of the handler that was recently murdered. Usually on Earth, a corpse associated with crime would still be in the coroner's office undergoing examination, but things seemed to be different on planet Osius. The necessary procedures were carried out very swiftly, and the corpses were checked into a mortuary of sorts. Then the families of the deceased could choose whatever they wanted to do with the corpse next. Gustav soon arrived on the step he was headed for, and moved sideways till he reached the 14th rectangular encasement. On this step, the body still seems to be in a state of repair. A shrill voice escaped Gustav's lip as he peered downwards. The body within this encasement had a giant hole that extended from its belly to its chest area. Dark scorch marks could be spotted on different areas of the skin as well. However, it was obvious that the body was undergoing some sort of repair, as it bathed in the rays emitted from the internal walls of the encasement. Guadav now understood that this wasn't just a preservative casket. It was also one that reversed all the damage done to the corpse. This was why the corpses looked like they were in a state of sleep as opposed to being dead. However, it didn't change the fact that they couldn't be brought to life. Eventually, the corpse before him would also be void of damage, but in the meantime, Gustav revered at how much this handler must have lost their life in a gruesome way. Time to find out how you really died. Gustav slowly lowered his right palm as he mumbled. Cersur and Kanta Ipe Sedundavoli, two associates, seemed to walk into this space at this same moment. Gustav was currently clad in a different outfit, so he had left his translator tool in his storage device with the clothes he initially had on. This was the reason Ozus didn't sound like they were speaking English anymore, because they never were. Fortunately, Gustav had the system. Despite listening to them speak in their native tone, Gustav perfectly understood every word coming out of their mouth. The system also had his back, so the moment he spoke to respond to them, it would be translated in their native tone. I'm here to do one last check. It shouldn't take too long. Oh, I thought the results have been finalized. After this they will be. It shouldn't take too long. The dialogue between Gustav and the other two Ozus ended in a bit, and they went on to focus on what they came here for, while Guadav finally placed his hand on the head of the Ozus before him. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Siamakronem. Processing brain waves reanimation. A notification popped up in his line of sight the moment his hand made contact with the face of the handler's corpse. Reanimating brain last vestiges. A transparent red glow appeared on Gustav's fingertips, which were latched to the face of the handler's corpse. 0/100%, 27/100%, 45/100%. Gustav waited for the bar that appeared above the percentage readings to fill up. 69/100%, 92/100%, 100/100% after 4 minutes, reanimation complete, preparing to withdraw data, bypassing brain cells, immunocode, 100/100%, processing data withdrawal. The red glow on Gustav's fingertips became brighter, and strands of the glow pierced into the handler's face, causing her skull to light up from within. 1/100%. Just like it happened in the situation with Boss Danzo, the data withdrawal process was considerably slower. Fortunately, Gustav didn't seem to have aroused any suspicions like the time with Boss Danzo, where his life was technically on the line. He heaved a sigh of relief as he waited. This was a testament to how far Gustav had come since that time. It had been over a year already. Within an apartment, an Ozus in undies laid within a box-shaped space. He seemed to have a very relaxed expression on his face as he drifted off into Wonderland, unaware of the presence sharing this room with him. This box was equivalent to a bed on Earth, and a figure just happened to be standing right before it. This figure, who hovered above the sleeping Ozus, reached out to grab his head. Mental manipulation has been activated. Transferring memories. The activities this figure had engaged in within the last 1 hour was getting transferred into the mind of the Ozus, like they were using a Bluetooth connection. A couple of memories got omitted according to the will of the figure hovering above the Ozus, and after a few more seconds, memory transfer complete. The figure, who was obviously Gustav, withdrew after this notification popped up in line of sight. He proceeded to place an invisibility button on his forehead in the next instant and vanished. A small whooshing sound rang out without disturbing the vicinity. Gustav was gone like he was never here in the first place. The person whose memories he had just tampered with was the Ozus, whose identity he made use of to infiltrate the Synaxes. This Ozus worked there and was supposed to come in today to do a few inspections, but Gustav had done something to him the night before. The Ozus was currently in a state of deep sleep because of Gustav, and now that he had achieved his objective, he needed to close off any loose ends. When this Ozus awoke, they'd have the memories of Gustav heading to the Synaxes and doing inspection as expected with a couple of cutouts. Gustav, where were you? We've been looking everywhere. Dude, you missed out. The group began clamoring the moment Gustav arrived back at the Zero Haven. Chapter 1282, a gentle reminder not to purchase privilege until I announce that it is ready for purchase. The group began clamoring the moment Gustav arrived back at the Zero Haven. I finished the race and couldn't keep waiting for you guys, so I went ahead to purchase some food. Kind of got sidetracked, but here you go, guys. Gustav responded while tapping on his storage button. Zing, 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 zing. Snacks in transparent plastic bags began to appear in everyone's hands, including Planet Ozius participants. Wow, cool, man. Then, what the hell is this? Yelled the last bit with an expression of horror as he noticed the contents of the snack bag in his hand. Every Earth participant, except Glade, had their faces drained of excitement as they stared at the snack bags with disgusted expressions. They were filled with brown eyeballs and purplish noddle-like tissues. The brown eyeballs had some unknown and thick greenish liquid splattered all over them. It was like sauce, but this sauce was unlike anything that existed on Earth. The internal state of the snack bags looked extremely groggy, and one might retch at the sight of it if they were an Earthling. For the Ozus, on the other hand, this was a heavenly snack. Dash, thanks Gustav. Dash, these are my favorite. Dash, you got the one with the gravy flavor. Dash, awesome. They appreciated Gustav's thoughtfulness and dug into the snack bag. E had an expression of betrayal and indignation as he pinched his nose while holding the bag up like it was a pile of shit. Bruh, come on. His eyes watered. Bottoms up, Gustav responded with a crafty smile. The group were trying to contain their disgust, but at the same time didn't want to look rude to the Ozus, so they tried to make subtle gestures at Gustav to get them out of the situation. But where is yours? Timmy questioned. I already ate, Gustav replied. What a coincidence. I already ate too. Ee cackled nervously while trying to return the snack. But you were with us all through, Ee. You couldn't have possibly eaten, Vice Captain Ailes said with a concerned tone. Now, don't be shy, Ee. You can eat our food, and enjoy it without shame, another Ozus participant voiced from the side. Edie was once again interrupted, but this time it was Gustav. At the very least, this looks similar to your cooking, so enjoy it. Gustav patted Ee on the back twice. Cook. Ee nearly puked out blood upon hearing this. Oh, does that mean Ee is a great cook? His dishes must be truly wonderful, Ozus voiced with intrigued expressions as they flocked around. Quite the contrary. Every Earth participant yelled in their minds, deciding to keep quiet since they felt Gustav had damaged Ee enough for the day. Eventually, Ee was fed the snacks by one of the female Ozus who felt he was being shy, and they all laughed and joked as the exploration continued while Ee felt like burying himself. The group went on to a different level to partake in a new activity. They spent a couple more hours at Zero Haven before deciding to explore a different location on planet Ozius. The day was still very long, so they decided to enjoy every bit of it before the night came. Fortunately, we managed to rank in the 191th place before the second disqualification in the Versus Battle Challenge, a humanoid-looking figure with cone-shaped head and transparent skin voiced. Truly, we managed to pull it off, but we need to go higher in the coming challenges, or we will fail. Another one with similar body structure responded. By the way, Orimon, why did you keep challenging Earth participants? You don't really believe you can win against them, do you? The largest in there, Mitz questioned with a tone of bafflement. Orimon, who was on the other end of this accommodation space, could be seen twiddling a trinket of sorts. He slowly raised his face up with a disparaging expression before replying. Captain Alumo, just because you're scared of them doesn't mean I am. I am no coward. I think you should take a look at Snovel. Siamacronim, don't be a fool. The other time we had an encounter with one of them, we were all put down with little to no effort. It isn't cowardice to avoid them in a 1-versus-1 battle. In truth, that is the best move to make, Captain Alumo voiced with a logical tone. That was their captain, and he may be a freak of nature, but the others aren't. You're just too fearful, Captain, Orimon replied with a ridiculing tone. The others aren't weak either. It is foolhardy to engage when a physical battle will most definitely end in a loss. If we are going to win against the Earth and take first place in ISOP, it won't be through engaging them in a regular way. We would have to be smart about it because whether we choose to admit it or not, they are stronger than we are, Captain Alumo stated strongly without getting angry. Whatever you say, Captain, I won't be a coward. Orimon stood to his feet at this point and began heading out. I will make sure I get them in the next challenge, with or without your help. They will pay. Orimon swore as he placed the ring like trinket on his finger. Asterisk, sigh, asterisk, I hope none of you think like he does. Captain Alumo questioned with a tone of concern. What a wimp im with Orimon. 9 other Zionsis had the similar thoughts in mind as they stared at Orimon heading out, but they decided not to air their thoughts. The day soon came to an end, and by the time it did, news had already spread of the 50 planets who won the disqualification stage of the battle challenge. Planet Ruz, which became one of the spectators' favorite during the battle challenge, was amongst the 50 who were to proceed to the next challenge. Now, only around 250 planets were left participating in ISOP. This was a far cry from the nearly 3,000 planets at the start. The next major challenge would signal the beginning of the end of ISOP. Handler 1 went on to address the entire arena about the next challenge, saying it would be announced 2 days from now. This meant that the main candidates for each planet had 2 days of rest, although for the ones who were already in top 200, this would make it a total of 3 days. Gustav already knew what he would spend the next 2 days doing. The group, of course, were ecstatic when they heard this news and still wanted to go out for more exploration, but Gustav announced that he wouldn't be joining them. He, of course, gave them an excuse mentioning that it had something to do with his bloodline channels, and the group ate it up, except Endrik. Endrik didn't choose to confront Gustav, yet, since he knew there were still things he was figuring out himself. At the dead of night, Gustav pulled a bluish cube out of his storage device and placed it on a platform etched to the wall of his room. The cube unfurled while emitting a spectrum of light before turning into a computerized monitor. System, transfer the data that contains the memory here, Gustav instructed. Are you sure you're ready to see this? The system inquired internally. By your tone, I take it you already know the contents of the handler's last memory, and it is going to be quite the stuff to take in when I see it. Am I right? Gustav questioned. Yes, the system responded bluntly. I don't want to think about it. Just show me, Gustav stated while placing his hand on the monitor. Transfer the memory, Gustav commanded. Data transfer from archive 0235244777 to 19583 in process. The numbers have increased so much since the last time. Oh, well, the system probably gathers universal data by the day, so I guess this is normal. Gustav decided not to give the numbers much thought as he focused on the transfer process. In a few minutes, a notification popped up on the computerized monitor before him. Video file received. That felt like it took forever, Gustav muttered as he tapped on the notification. The display quickly transformed as the start of a footage appeared on the monitor. Time to find out who the culprit is, Gustav muttered. TSSSHJSSKKKKK. The footage began with a loud noise that sounded like a mixture between claws scratching on hard surfaces and wet flesh wriggling together. What appeared in his line of sight was a cascading darkness surrounding a figure. The point of view from the person witnessing this could be seen quaking intensely. THS surroundings were obviously affected as well. Hey, are you okay? You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.